This morning on Long Island, the man accused of being the Long Island serial killer didn't just plead guilty. He did at least 7 times, one for each victim, and also admitted to killing an eighth victim, Karen Vergata, a stunning reversal in this decades-long case.
Welcome to the global phenomenon, Surviving the Survivor. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning journalist, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation? Welcome to the global phenomenon that is Surviving the Survivor, bringing you the very best guests in all of true crime, and we're going to bring this to you and try to break it down. Things happening much faster than were originally expected. There is a press conference going on right now with Michael Brown, who is the defense attorney for Rex Heuermann. This was supposed to go till about 2 p.m. Eastern time. It is 12:05 p.m. Eastern time. We've got Tim Jansen, criminal defense attorney out of Tallahassee, who's going to join us momentarily, as well as David Sarney, retired NYPD detective. But this is the man we are talking about today, this ogre of a human being, and a lot of news coming out of the courtroom in Suffolk County, Long Island, which is the far western part of the county. Space Coast and the COE are trying to right now bring up the shot of the press conference with Michael Brown. That is Rex Heuermann's defense attorney. We're going to get that shot for you live momentarily. You can see it in the back room here. So we will have that to you. Shout out to Dr. Bullabutter, member for 18 months. How about that? Now, let me just tell you, a short time ago, there was a press conference with Asa Ellerup, that is the wife of Rex Heuermann's attorney, Robert Massadino, and we're going to play that back for you as well. But we are bringing you live coverage right now in just a few moments of Michael Brown, who is the defense attorney for Rex Heuermann. Again, 8 names, 8 lives. And today, for the very first time, the man responsible admitted to his responsibility in the case, but gave almost nothing else. Also, just so you know, tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time, we will have a full wrap-up show on this. And coming to you tonight, we will have 2 of New York PD's best retired detectives, David Sarney and Michael Alzakar, will be on here along with Dr. Casey Jordan. But Tim Jansen's going to be here, I believe, in a few moments to bring us some legal analysis. I know we're working to get you the live press conference, but let me just tell you what we know right now. Rex Heuermann spoke in court very briefly. We now know that there will be no trial, no cross-examination, no full public airing of what happened. We are looking at the victims here, and they are and not necessarily the order up there because I have them written down in my notes, but I wanted to say them all by name here. Melissa Barthelemy, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Megan Waterman, Amberlynn Costello, Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, Sandra Costilla, and Karen Vergata. We are ready. Give me 1 second here. And let me just say with Karen Vergata, Laura Engel of News Nation, she's going to join us tonight for a few minutes because she's super busy, as you can imagine. But she was in the courtroom. She's going to give us some flavor of what happened inside that courtroom today. And she'll be here, I believe, at 7 o'clock Eastern time to fill us in. But as it relates to Karen Vergata, it's a little unclear whether or not he actually pleaded guilty to her murder or just admitted to killing her from a technical standpoint legally. We will play this now, COE. We're kind of doing this all on the fly. This is all very fluid. So COE, let this play and we will watch together.
Ex-wife Asa Ellerup is speaking right now at the podium. We want to listen into that and her attorney.
Okay, so this is the first interview today.
Thank you.
Over 3 decades. First and foremost, our hearts are with the victims and their families. They have suffered unimaginable loss, and nothing said here today can lessen that pain. Let me be
This is the
absolutely clear.
lawyer for the wife of Rex
We just heard in the
Heuermann.
courtroom, Rex Heuermann and Rex Heuermann alone is responsible for these horrific crimes. Any suggestion that Asa Ellerup or Victoria Heuermann were involved is irresponsible. They have no knowledge, no involvement, or any connection to these heinous acts. The evidence that's been put out in the courtroom simply does not support any other fact pattern. Mrs. Ellerup and Victoria accept today's outcome without question. She and her family have cooperated fully since day one with law enforcement and will continue to respect this legal process as it comes to a conclusion. This situation is deeply personal and profoundly painful for Ms. Ellerup and her family. She never wanted to believe the man she was married to for 27 years, the father of Victoria, would be capable of committing such heinous acts. Like so many others, she is still trying to process what was just revealed inside that courtroom, and she has to remain strong for her family. On behalf of her family, she's asking for privacy, compassion, and understanding as she now navigates these circumstances which nobody could have anticipated a little more than 3 years ago. Today is not about Asa. It's not about Victoria. It is about the victims and their families who, as we just stated, have suffered unimaginable losses. And this family will continue in cooperating with the District Attorney's Office and law enforcement in the pursuit of justice wherever it may take us. Any questions?
Can we hear from Asa?
Yeah, no, we surely will hear from Asa, yes. Just want to know, she's not going to answer any questions. She's going to read a statement, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Okay. She's not going to answer questions. She's going to read a statement that she prepared last night. She's not going to ask any questions.
Can you come to the center back where you are?
Okay, right up, Asa, just step up. Slow. Okay.
No questions?
No
Okay.
questions.
My thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families. Their loss is immeasurable, and the focus should be on them at this time and moment. I ask that you give some privacy to my family as they navigate through this very difficult time.
How did you not see what he was? How did you not see what he had done? You were living with him.
Sir, the District Attorney's Office has thoroughly investigated these crimes, okay? It has been proven.
You were living in the same house with him.
She was away.
What were the
She was
signs?
away each and every occasion. We've answered this 1,000 times, okay? You guys have the bail applications. You have the investigation. Yeah, that's it. There's no questions, okay? Thank you. There's no questions being asked. Oh, none.
As you can see, as Ellerup's attorney stepping in, not allowing her to answer any questions. It looked at first as though she may, but he was quick to quell that. We'll bring our guest back in. Rich, let me ask you, you're hearing from that attorney right there.
We're watching live coverage here or tape coverage here at this point of CBS.
Well,
Let's
I
watch
give
for a
him
moment.
Good grades. There's no way she should be answering questions. She's just been named in civil litigation. So she gave a very short statement expressing her thoughts and prayers for the victims and their families. That's fully appropriate. She shouldn't comment on it further. She may get deposed. She may be a witness. She can't be talking about it.
Yeah.
Commissioner, I have a quick question for you. You know, with this dual life and the question that people were saying to her, you know, how could you not know? What have you experienced in the past about somebody living with a killer and not knowing?
Yeah, so yes, he was definitely living a double life, and her role or her knowledge of exactly of his actions, I still have questions. I'm going to be very frank with you. Was she complicit? Was she in any ways knowing what her husband was doing? No, God willing, we'll find out down the road. But the one thing that I will share is the investigation is not over. The task force still needs to stay intact. You have to take a closer look. The bodies started missing in 1993 to 2010. Were there other individuals that we have not discovered that we need to be able to identify and hold them accountable as well. So a lot more work needs to be done. Was she part of it? Time will tell, but it's a very, very frustrating situation, but a level of comfort that I'm sure the families of the loved ones who lost their lives so brutally are going to be able to sleep tonight.
Have you spoken with members of the task force that are still actively investigating to see what the next step is?
So I had an opportunity to engage individuals that were part of the task force. They actually moved on, but they still have a say-so regarding what are going to be the next steps. You know, listen, the district attorney, Ray Turney, did a good job after the initial arrest, making sure we were able to continue the investigation and attach all of the discovered bodies that were on Ocean Parkway, as well as other locations to Rex Heuermann.
Yeah, so now that he's admitting to an MO of strangulation using burlap and whatnot, do you now go back and just kind of revisit other cold cases that where any type of connection could be made, as you said, to other cases that maybe existed out there?
All right, Tim Jansen is here. Tim, you have me?
I have you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I've got you loud and clear. Appreciate you being here. Major breaking news out of Long Island, New York today. Rex Heuermann, one thing I'm not completely clear on that I'll try to get an answer. So apparently he said very little, this ogre of a human being, Rex Heuermann. He appeared in court and he pleaded guilty to the murders of at least 7 women. This is where I'm not completely sure. He also admitted to killing Karen Vergata. She's the 8th victim. But from the reporting I was reading, Tim Jansen, I don't know that he technically pleaded guilty to her particular murder other than to admit that he killed her. Is there a legal distinction there if he didn't in fact plead guilty? And I'll try to get a definitive answer on that.
Well, you can admit to a crime and have not pled guilty to it yet, right?
Yeah, Tim, try to lower your volume a touch on your mic. You're in the back if you can.
Let me see if I can do that.
I think that's already better.
Is that better?
A little bit more.
Well, then I don't know if I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you're good.
Okay. Is that? I'll try to stand back farther away. Is that help?
No, yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can admit to a crime without having pled to it, right? Because a lot of times when they interview people, they admit to the crimes, but they haven't actually pled to it. So, and they may have some issues. They have to make sure that they have evidence of a body and a crime occurred in their jurisdiction, because you can't just take confessions from people. They don't let people just confess. And the laws require there be some substantive evidence of a crime before you convict somebody of a crime that confesses to it. Because, a lot of crazies will go down there when there's a serial killer and they'll go in and say, yeah, I did it. And that's why the police hold back information, because they don't want people confessing to crimes and then they don't know any details to it.
Now, in the latest bit of reporting that I have, and I think that this is probably right, it looks like Karen Vergata is included. Here is a story, the most recent reporting from court. It is a strange setting in the courtroom as District Attorney Tierney continues to ask Heuermann a series of yes or no questions. He asks him, and this is the DA here. This is not, an assistant district attorney. This is the elected district attorney. He asks him whether he killed each victim by strangulation and whether he bound the women in the same way. Heuermann continues to answer each question with mostly yes, not registering any emotion as he looks directly at the district attorney. Meanwhile, occasional cries from relatives of the victims in the first few rows can be heard. This guy is an absolute monster. Let's stop there. Tim, just tell us what has to happen at this hearing that's going on now. We're also expecting, by the way, to hear from Michael Brown, who is Rex Heuermann's criminal defense attorney, and then from Ray Tierney, who is the district attorney who's asking these questions in court. But Tim, what does the district attorney have to do in this courtroom today to sort of make this official and valid and acceptable to move forward in a court of law?
Yeah, so one thing normally they do, they always use the plea right. It has to be in writing. They have it in writing. And then the judge has to believe that there's a factual basis for the plea. So if somebody's just not pleading guilty to a crime, and then the facts that the person's pleading to don't fit the elements of the crime. So that's why the district attorney is asking him, did you kill these persons? How did you do it? And make sure that they were all killed in this jurisdiction. So there has to be a factual basis that a judge can say, okay, I'll accept this plea. I believe the factual basis supports the plea. It satisfies the elements for the offenses for which you're pleading. I will accept the plea, and then we will schedule sentencing down the road.
And
So
by
did
the
you-
way, yeah,
Yeah.
we're David Sarney. This, by the way, was all supposed to happen about 2 hours from now. So David Sarney is trying to get to a camera. Unclear. He's a retired NYPD detective. Whether he'll make it. Snazzy Trinkets here. Tim Jansen.
Yep.
Now that he has pled guilty, how quickly will his DNA hit CODIS? That's an interesting question. Do you know? Will they? I've assumed that he was swabbed. I don't know what the protocol is for that. Do you?
Yeah, they get a search warrant for that, for DNA, to match it to other crimes. In Florida, when you're convicted of a felony, you automatically will have your DNA taken and you do be fingerprints. Now, how quickly that DNA goes to get put in CODIS, I guess it depends on processing. I think it's pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading some of the comments here, and I don't understand why courts throughout the whole United States don't have public hearings, public trials. The public is entitled to see what's happening in their communities. Trials should be open to the public. We don't want Kafkaesque trials, right? We want to see what's happening. People are entitled to see what's happening. And I don't think there's any legitimate basis not to have cameras in these courtrooms. The federal courts do it. The Supreme Court does it. And I don't really see a basis why any state court should not have cameras in these criminal proceedings.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And everyone knows Steve is out, Cohen, so I'm kind of double working here, doing some booking and speaking to David Sarney as we speak. One last time, you see here that these are live reports from inside the courtroom. One last time, the judge has asked Heuermann to formally enter a plea for each murder count. He says guilty to each one. The judge set a sentencing date of June 17th, and then Rex Heuermann is escorted out. Heuermann did not once turn his head toward the audience to look at the victims. At the end of the hearing, many sat quietly. Some wiped away tears. Heuermann's wife and daughter also appeared expressionless, though his daughter held Kleenex in her hand. We do have the video of Michael Brown. That is Rex Heuermann's attorney. So without further ado, let's bring that up. We'll watch that together. And then we'll go back, and we also have Robert Macedonio, who we just watched, who is the attorney for Ace Ellerup, Rex Heuermann's wife. But let's watch. This is Michael Brown coming out of the courthouse just a few moments ago and speaking to reporters.
Okay,
Carol,
go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I know this is the second time I've had to cut you off, but we want to go to Rex Heuermann's attorney right now.
No, I see him. I know where you're going.
We'll get right back to you. We'll get right back to you.
Enter a plea of guilty. Now, as attorneys, we've counseled him, we've advised him, but that decision is ultimately up to the defendant. He controls his case, and that's his prerogative, that's his right, and that's what happened here today. When Rex decided that he wanted to accept responsibility and didn't want to proceed to trial, from a defense standpoint, we then pivoted and did our best to protect his interest. That included the fact that he's going to cooperate with the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the Behavioral Analysis Unit, and as you heard the district attorney, there will be no further prosecutions in regards to these 8 victims. The district attorney's office of Suffolk County did an excellent job. I'll commend them. They deserve all the accolades. I've been reviewing this case for over 2.5 years. I can't express to you, and I know we've talked about it on many different dates, the volume of evidence and discovery. They did a great job. They really did a great job of gathering the evidence, they went down hundreds of rabbit holes. And when you look at the amount of evidence and you connect the dots, they really did a great job. And I'm talking about the investigators, the detectives, their experts, the assistant district attorneys. So I'm sure that the families of the victims are very grateful to the district attorney, and the people of this county should be as well. This was an unprecedented case. And I can tell you that I am very fortunate to have had a legal team that helped me on this over the course of the last 2.5 years. I don't know where Mr. Capone is, and Mr. Fuchs. They are excellent writers, and we battled this from day one, and we were prepared from day one to try this case. Chase Brown has been an excellent help in terms of everything we've been doing. He is a rising star in this county, and my co-pilot, Danielle Koish, she really put together that Fry hearing. That was such a monumental hearing here in New York State. And she's organized and came up with such crafty arguments during the course of this case. So I'm really grateful for their help. We really were, in my opinion, zealous. We did our best to be competent and effective during the course of this prosecution and the defense. One of the things that I was very mindful of and made a deliberate point is we attacked the evidence. We never attacked these young ladies, these victims. That was never our objective. We never said a bad word about them, and they ran into some tough times. They were all beautiful young ladies. Their mothers, their daughters, their sisters, I can go on. But it was never about attacking them. It was always about attacking the evidence. So I think that this today gave hopefully some peace and some closure to the family members. This case is over from our standpoint. You heard the prosecutor indicate there will be no further prosecutions in exchange for his plea of guilty, as well as his cooperation with the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the Behavioral Analysis Unit. I respect the press and their role in the criminal justice system, so I'm happy to take some questions to the best that I can at this point.
What changed and when? That's what we're trying to
Yeah,
figure out.
well,
We have insisted on
I can't give you our conversations that are confidential, but I will say to you that there came a point in this defense where Rex said, I want to plead guilty. And it was at that point when we really had an objective of protecting his interests.
Sure, but can you give us some
I can't.
timeline on
No,
that?
because that's all confidential. I'm not going to get into the time frame.
Is he cooperating with the FBI?
I'm sorry.
Has he spoken to Asa?
Has he spoken to Asa? I don't know. You'd have to ask Asa.
Mike, can you talk a little bit about the parameters of the FBI cooperation? Because we couldn't really hear you on the mic well when you mentioned that in court. And what does that mean for a potential federal prosecution of Rex, if at all?
Yeah, I'm not at liberty to discuss any of that. All I can say is he has an obligation to cooperate fully and completely with the Federal Bureau of Investigations Behavioral Analysis Unit. I can't get into anything further. Anybody? Yes, sir.
This plea comes sometime after the judge ruled on DNA. Was that part of the calculation that there was just another obstacle in the way to try to prove his innocence versus pleading guilty?
Well, we don't have to prove innocence, obviously.
Well,
it's about, but I understand your question. Yeah, I mean, listen, there are a couple of things that were major decisions in this case from a strategic standpoint for the defense, in terms of likelihood of success at trial, so to speak. The judge's ruling on the Fry hearing was monumental. Yes, that's a big deal because if you remember, you have mitochondrial DNA and the statistical likelihood is not that great. I feel like I'm a broken record, but that was 2.5 years ago. We talked about that. But once that nuclear DNA comes into play, those statistics, as portrayed by this expert, the Astrea lab, they're off the charts. So that's a major part of how successful you're going to be at trial. Another major part is our motion to sever, which Ms. Koish wrote a great motion on that because we didn't think, we suggested that the cumulative effect would have been so overwhelming, and the court disagreed with us, and the court permitted all of the counts in the indictment to remain together. That's a big, big win for the prosecution.
Mr. Brown, you
Yes.
yourself told us many times that you believed he was not the guy. When did your thoughts on that change?
Well, my thoughts aren't important.
Good question,
At some
yeah.
point, he admitted responsibility to us and indicated that he wanted to proceed to trial. So I don't sit there and judge a case. Our objective and our job is to be zealous advocates for the client, right? That's what we do. We do it on every single case. A good lawyer is going to advocate for their client. That's what we've been doing from day one. My beliefs, and it's insignificant.
Mr. Brown,
Yes, sir.
The hearing is often, these kinds of hearings are so clinical. Can you give us an understanding of his mindset coming in and whether he, without betraying confidences, may have said something that indicated a particular way he was thinking or feeling about this?
You're talking about this morning?
Yeah.
Well, this is not something that nothing has been done from the hip. We don't shoot from the hip on this case. This case, every single decision we've made has been calculated and thought out, and we've thrown it around hundreds of times. And the reason I say that is, we've been speaking to him and preparing him for today, and that's been ongoing for weeks.
Is he sorry?
I would hope so.
Has
I
he
mean,
expressed remorse?
I expect at sentencing he'll have something to say. I'll leave it at that.
Was it a sense of relief, you think, for him to
I do.
admit this today?
I do. I think that was a huge sense of relief for him. I can't, I'm not in his position, obviously, and I never will be. But when you have that type of in your head and on your body and just, yeah, I think by admitting it, I think it's cathartic to some extent, sure.
Mike, are we expecting to get into more detail about how he did all of this at sentencing?
No.
What does the fact of the DNA evidence not being appealable do for other cases in this state?
You know, I'm going to let Ms. Koish answer that because she really is now an expert on this area.
Yeah, so what we have in this Fry decision is a Supreme
Danielle,
Court
just stand a
decision.
little closer.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's a Supreme Court decision. Another Supreme Court justice could hear the same issues and either agree with Judge Mazie or disagree with Judge Mazie. It's not a controlling decision yet, okay? So I assume we're going to hear more. I think that this type of technology, now that the door was open, is going to be used more, and similar legal challenges are going to be raised. And it's up and until we get to the higher courts, what we call the appellate division over in Brooklyn or even our Court of Appeals, does that decision become binding. So Judge Mazie's decision certainly opened the door. We're going to see it, and I'm sure we're going to hear what other Supreme Court justices and other judges in New York think about the case. But as of right now, it's just a door-opening decision.
Mr. Brown, can you just clarify if there was an agreement? He's pleaded guilty to 7 counts. He also acknowledged an 8th murder. But then there's something about no future prosecutions. Does that mean if there were other victims found in Suffolk that there would not be prosecutions?
No, there will be no further prosecutions on these 8 victims.
How did the 8th one come about? Like, how did that end up being part of it?
When he decided he wanted to plead guilty, we had that covered as part of his plea, and there'll be no further prosecutions as long as he cooperates with the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Behavioral Analysis Unit.
So is Rex maintaining that he has no other victims out there?
No, he's maintaining there's no other victims other than the 8, correct, yes.
When did Karen Bravada enter the conversation with you?
It's hard to say. I don't know. I don't have the timeline. I can't tell you. Obviously, she came into play. Her as a victim came into play at some point. I can't tell you exactly when.
Weeks, months?
I don't know.
How much was the...
Mr. Brown, could you tell us if his family might have helped him make this decision? Please.
I think that they speak, and I think that there was, I can tell you that, I'll say this, certainly several of his concerns, he had many about why he didn't want to go to trial and plead guilty. He certainly wanted to save the families of the victims the ordeal of going to trial, and coupled with saving his family that ordeal. So I know that there was conversations during the course of this defense between his family members and himself in regards to that, yes.
Did he not want his family members, his wife and his daughter to know the details of the murders that he committed?
I would assume that. I'm sure, again, there was conversations about having them avoid the ordeal of a trial. It was definitely a factor.
Yes. How much of a factor was the federal charge?
Okay, we've been listening to Rex Heuermann's attorney, Michael Brown.
That is live coverage of WCBS in New York, and we're joined now, as you can see, by both criminal defense attorney extraordinaire Tim Jansen and NYPD retired detective Mike Alcazar. Mike, thanks for hopping on short notice. Let me start with you, Mike. I mean, this is a huge day for law enforcement. This is a decades-old case. The first murder, I believe, is tied back to 1993. And just for a point of clarification, because I've been going back and forth, but you just heard that again in the press conference. He pleaded guilty to 7 murders. And then with Karen Vergata, the 8th victim, he just admitted to killing her, but there wasn't a guilty plea entered there, which is interesting. But Mike, what is this day like for law enforcement where you get a serial killer to admit to these heinous murders?
Yeah, it must be a very proud day for all detectives, investigators, the former chief that used to work there, to finally have this guy plead guilty. Credit to all the work they've done, right? Like you said, the first administration dropped the ball, right? A decade later, they solve it. They get all this information. They get all this DNA evidence. The defense did their best to, try not to have that admitted, but they lost everything that they tried to challenge. And it's good. I'm sure they feel great. I hope they can link more cases, prove more cases to Heuermann. It's kind of weird for me that, I mean, he's serving 3 consecutive life without parole. I don't see why he wouldn't admit to any other murders that he committed. So it's going to be interesting what happens from now until sentencing. Hopefully, again, he'll allocute and we get more information.
Yeah, and sentencing again, I believe, is June 17th, if I have that date right, but you guys will correct me, but it's coming right up. Tim, let's go through some of the particulars here with Michael Brown. This is a guy, I mean, this is what a criminal defense attorney is going to do. He has denied this guy's, or he's actually proclaimed his innocence. Forget denying his guilt, but he said this guy's innocent. How awkward a position is that for a criminal defense attorney to then say, oh, yeah, well, my client is, I guess, guilty of killing, 8 people. My bad.
Well, so many defense lawyers don't understand the process. They get up there before they even talk to their client, before they even look at the evidence and proclaim their client's innocence. High-profile cases are the worst. You get lawyers that are trying to get the media attention, who are trying to get these big cases to get their name out there, proclaiming innocence. Well, in reality, they know the evidence is overwhelming. I'm sitting here as a defense lawyer. I'm like, why is he having this press conference? Why is he proclaiming all this good things about the case and how hard they fought, when in fact the guy was guilty of sin and confessed to them? Our job is to make sure that they have their rights to a fair trial, that their charges are accurate. But I'm not sure why he's going out talking about how great their motions were, how great in this Fry test has not been ruled on, and all these other legal maneuvers that lawyers do. We do those. But then at the same hand saying, oh, yes, he's happy that he didn't put the victims who he murdered, put them through a trial. I would never go out and do that. That's an insult to the families. He should just say the client pled guilty to avoid a trial. That's it. He doesn't need to be answering questions. He doesn't need to be having press conferences. He was representing a person who had charges. He was arrested. He had all the process. He had a judge. He lost. He entered guilty pleas. We don't need to see him anymore. We don't need to talk about the evidence. We want to solve the rest of the murders and not be bragging about there's not going to be any more prosecution. He doesn't know that. They might find other murders that he's involved with once we get his DNA. So it's a great day for law enforcement. It's a sad day for the victims. Law enforcement has tools now. It's really hard to get away with a murder.
Yeah. We have a sound bite that Space Coast has pulled up. We're doing pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps here. Spacey or COE, can you play that sound bite real quick? This is from outside the courthouse, I believe. Inside the courthouse.
You discussed this case with your attorney?
Yes, I have.
Have you had enough time to discuss this case with your attorney?
Yes, I have.
After discussions with your lawyer, you feel it's in your best interest to plead guilty rather than go to trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you satisfied with the manner in which your attorneys represented you in this case?
Yes, I am.
I must say that the attorneys on both sides of this case have been excellent, unbelievable lawyers. Do you understand that by pleading guilty to a charge, that is the same as if you had gone to trial and been found guilty of that charge?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're waiving a number of very important rights?
Yes, Your Honor.
As you're hearing from Rex Heuermann there for the
All
first
right,
time.
that was Rex Heuermann. Mike, let me go to you there. This guy's an absolute monster, the worst of the worst, the evilest of the evil. And you just hear him so nonchalantly inside a courtroom. I mean, you've had experience not dealing probably with guys at this level, but really awful human beings. What do you make of his sort of nonchalance here?
Yeah, I mean, just like you guys and everybody else watching, he even has a smirk. This guy has no remorse. This was a deal for him. He didn't want to go through the trial and maybe some embarrassment. It's like a sense of a relief because the end was undeniable. He's gonna be found guilty. This guy's a predator, like you said. This guy's a lion. He doesn't have any emotion. He doesn't have any feelings. He doesn't care about the family of the victims. He doesn't care about his own family. This guy's a psychopath.
Yeah. Let's keep an eye. And I see something on CBS Now, COE. I'm not sure what that is, but let's keep an eye on a couple of the local New York stations because they'll probably be grabbing some people. Key evidence found in the home here. And I'm going to go through Michael Brown, what he just had to say, the defense attorney for Rex Heuermann. These guys have a tough job, but man, Tim, don't take this the wrong way. Is it easy to really hate some criminal defense attorneys?
Trust me, I get it. You know, you can do your job and not cause people to hate you.
Yeah.
This lawyer went over, he's overboard. That press conference I would have never done at all.
Well, he's a very sort of, I don't know, I'm going to get yelled at because I'm from New York, New Jersey, but kind of a stereotypical smug New Yorker, and it just doesn't play well. I mean, maybe in New York you can get away with it, but you see here the basement gun vault this is in Rex Heuermann's home in Massapequa Park, which is a beautiful part of Long Island. A hidden walk-in vault containing nearly 300 firearms uncovered in the basement. A planning document. Prosecutors disclosed that a methodical blueprint for his murders, including checklists for cleaning bodies, destroying evidence, and preparing the hunt, was recovered from a hard drive and restored after being deleted. Mike, I mean, this is straight out of Silence of the Lambs. There was no way a jury was not going to convict this guy. And you heard Michael Brown talking about wanting to sever the cases. Probably not the best word to use, but that is a legal term. But they were going to put them all together and just the totality. This guy would have been convicted in a New York minute, as they say. But what about this part that he had this basically like a torture dungeon and like almost like a bunker where he would plan these murders out?
Yeah, this guy's like a modern day Dexter, right?
Yeah.
He had a plan. He had a kill blueprint. I think he was proud of what he was doing. You know, he wanted to keep this, how he improved in being a better killing machine. Again, this guy's a monster, like everyone thinks.
Yeah. So Tim, let's go to Michael Brown. He's the defense attorney we just listened to. It was made apparent during that Rex Heuermann, again, there are no cameras in the courtroom, which is why it's a little bit confusing, but he pleads guilty, Rex Heuermann does, to 7 of the 8 murders and admits to killing Karen Vergata. She's the 8th. He says, and we'll break this down now, we counseled him, but he controls his case. When Rex decided to accept responsibility, it was his decision. And he says he's going to cooperate with the FBI. He also said that they've agreed that there won't be any further prosecution. So, Tim, what happens if they uncover now, I don't know, 2 more bodies, 4 more bodies, 6 more bodies, 10 more bodies? People think that there's dozens out there. What happens in terms of justice for those victims?
Well, I think the plea agreement is not going to bind them if they find other victims. It's usually going to, the ones that they're investigating that are open, but if they find new victims, they can certainly prosecute them. If he went across state lines and and committed a murder, that jurisdiction, and the feds can do what they're going to do separately from this state conviction. So that doesn't bind the feds. You didn't see any federal investigator, U.S. attorney, or anything saying, "Yes, Judge, we're part of this deal," that I'm aware of. And I don't think they can bind the feds. The feds can still charge if they find other victims or other crimes.
Yeah, COE and Spacey. Also, Tim and Mike were not here for Robert Macedonio, who is Asa Ellerip, the family attorney. I'd like to just play that back. It was short, if we can re-rack that. But Mike, and this is a legal question from our friend in AR Wyoming, but also a police question. No allocution. What's it tell you that he just answered yes, no questions? We thought maybe he was going to speak out and say, well, I did this and I did it this way and I did it on the night of this and she tried to run away and it was none of that, Mike. Why do you think?
I think that's pretty standard, kind of like Hoberger. That's almost what I expected, that he's just going to plead guilty. He's going to admit how he murdered these women. And then I think somewhere between now and the sentencing, he may allocute. He might give more information.
Yeah, and on the day of the sentencing, you just heard Michael Brown say he is probably going to offer up some words. Mike and David Sarney will both be back tonight at 7. We're awaiting a press conference with the prosecutor, and David Sarney looks like his smile is, sparkling. He just got his teeth cleaned, so he's coming straight to us from that. David Sarney, from your perspective as a proud law enforcement retired detective, what kind of day is this for law enforcement to put away the worst of the worst types of monsters?
You're glad about it, but no matter what, you feel for the families, and that's the whole thing. You don't want to see these things happen, but they do. The only positive you get out of this, it's over. The families don't have to go through this anymore. Mike and I believe the same thing, that this isn't over. I mean, there's still, you're not missing until someone thinks you're missing, or someone wants you or believes you're missing. There are a lot of people out there. I don't think, now have another from 1996. And now this is the issue. There are more. There are definitely more. This was not the first. This is not the last. This doesn't end. And this is what happens when it comes to missings. I'm glad this chapter is over, but it's not for those who still have people that are missing that have not been found. And, these are people that went by the wayside in society. And that's why he picked them, because no one would think they would be missed or mentioned. And that's the thing. They were never forgotten by the family. And I'm glad it's done. But the work will still continue, because this is not just one person, but you're going to see, Gilgo Beach is massive. And, you're only going to find it when you look for it. And that might be a continuance of this.
David, if you had a guess, how many more do you think might be out there?
You're talking, we always wonder why.
It's not just New York too. I mean, this guy has ties.
No, I mean, we had, if Mike remembers, the Livy Kletsky case, and there was an individual who was abducted in the streets in Borough Park, Brooklyn. And we looked, it was only the first time this person did it. And we looked, and I know they looked every which way to see if the individual who was involved in this did any more, and we're not able to locate it. This individual, and I don't like using his name because his name should be a number the rest of his natural born life. This person has probably done more, and that's the problem, because when you're missing, you're only missing if someone thinks you're missing. If someone has to not find you, and these are people that he found, and we've seen this in many stages of life with many of these serial killers. They find people who will never want to be looked for, or never going to be looked for. You still have an Asian doe that's in Gilgo Beach that has not been identified, or the killer has been found, and has not been tied to the person who just pled guilty. But there are more. I guarantee you there are more. It's just a matter of finding body parts, and then hopefully the investigation that like these guys did for decades before, and detective work done in 1996 and 1993 and all of these things led to us to today to get this the solace for these family members. So I'm glad it's over for them, but it's not over for murderers like this.
Yeah, a couple more questions. I'm going to replay the video of Asa Ellerup, the wife of Rex Heuermann, her attorney. Do you think, Mike, this is for you. Do you think once his DNA is entered into CODIS, there will be a lot of other victims? I mean, what are your thoughts alongside what David was just saying? Are there a lot more John Does and Jane Does out there, maybe?
Yeah, once his DNA is uploaded to CODIS, they'll definitely do a lot more comparison, and it could yield more victims. It's going to be something that they'll investigate and hopefully easily prove. Like Dave said, there could be a lot more victims. Again, I don't know why he wouldn't just own up to it. If he's a 100% psychopath and you're already spending the rest of your life in prison, why wouldn't you just own it? Unless he forgot. Unless there's so many, but he seems to be pretty methodical. I would think he would remember all of them, but I hope it goes to the CODIS and they figure out other victims, identify more victims.
Yeah, for those who are somewhat new to this case, and this has been ongoing for decades in New York, and thank you to AR Wyoming here with the super chat. Appreciate you being here, and we'll be back with a full, much more calm, organized wrap-up show at 7 o'clock. And thank you to Stacey L for becoming a new member. Appreciate it. Rex Heuermann, 62. He was arrested back in 2023. You probably recall. It was on the streets of Midtown Manhattan. This guy is a monster of a human being on top of being a monster, but I mean physically like 6'6" in every direction. He was arrested in the murders of Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello, and later charged with the murders of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Sandra Costilla, Jessica Taylor, and Valerie Mack. He pleaded guilty to all those murders today and then admitted guilt in the killing of an eighth victim, Karen Vergata today. So, COE or Spacey, can we play? This is now going to be, and then we'll go back and go over everything, but this will now be Robert Macedonio representing Asa Ellerup. Here he is from a few moments ago.
The podium, we want to listen into that and her attorney.
Another smug New York defense attorney.
Thank you. Over 3 decades. First and foremost, our hearts are with the victims and their families. They have suffered unimaginable loss, and nothing said here today can lessen that pain. Let me be absolutely clear. We just heard in the courtroom, Rex Heuermann and Rex Heuermann alone is responsible for these horrific crimes. Any suggestion that Asa Ellerup or Victoria Heuermann were involved is irresponsible. They have no knowledge, no involvement, or any connection to these heinous acts. The evidence that's been put out in the courtroom simply does not support any other fact pattern. Mrs. Ellerup and Victoria accept today's outcome without question. She and her family have cooperated fully since day one with law enforcement and will continue to respect this legal process as it comes to a conclusion. This situation is deeply personal and profoundly painful for Ms. Ellerup and her family. She never wanted to believe the man she was married to for 27 years, the father of Victoria, would be capable of committing such heinous acts. Like so many others, she is still trying to process what was just revealed inside that courtroom, and she has to remain strong for her family. On behalf of her family, she's asking for privacy, compassion, and understanding as she now navigates these circumstances which nobody could have anticipated a little more than 3 years ago. Today is not about Asa. It's not about Victoria. It is about the victims and their families, but we just stated have suffered unimaginable losses. And this family will continue in cooperating with the District Attorney's Office and law enforcement in the pursuit of justice wherever it may take us. Any questions?
Can we hear from Asa?
Yeah, no, we probably will hear from Asa, yes. Just want to know, she's not going to answer any questions. She's going to read a statement, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions? Oh, no, she's not going to answer any questions.
Yeah, we'll take questions that she won't answer.
She's not going to answer questions. She's going to read a statement that she prepared last night. She's not going to ask any questions.
Can you come to the center back where you are?
Okay, right up, Asa, just step up. Slow. Okay.
I can't see her.
No questions?
No
Okay.
questions.
My thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families. Their loss is immeasurable. And the focus should be on them at this time and moment. I ask that you give some privacy to my family as they navigate through this very difficult time.
How did you not see what he was? How did you not see what he had done? You were living with him.
Sir, the district attorney's office has thoroughly investigated these crimes. Okay, it has been proven.
You were living in the same house with him.
That's
She was
priceless.
away. She was away each and every occasion. We've answered this 1,000 times. Okay, you guys have the
And the press
application,
conference
you have
just
the
ended.
investigation.
And it would.
There's no questions.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you.
And there it is. So Tim
Oh.
Jansen, he
Oh.
puts up Asa Ellerup, rookie move there because
Yeah.
I mean, it's New York City too, #1 media market. What do you make of this, just in general?
Well, one, if you're an attorney going to have a press conference, you don't read off 9 different pages of scrap notes, a general statement that you're feeling for the family. There was no reason for this statement. Again, he's just trying to get publicity, get media. I thought the wife's statement was fine. I think she spoke from the heart, and I think it was well done. I said no question, but you know the New York media, they're going to ask questions. How could you not know? And we all have that question. How can anybody live with that man who's killed all these people and not know something? It just boggles my mind, that they're just bad people. This guy's on top of the list of bad people.
Yeah, it's interesting to point out too. Neither Macedonio, who is Asa Ellerup, the wife's, or Michael Brown's attorney, who's Rex Heuermann's attorney, none of them mentioned any of the victims by name, which would have been nice of them to do. But David Sarney, your reaction to Robert Macedonio basically getting up there and saying that Rex and Rex alone, obviously his only job is to deflect any blame potentially from the family, and there's going to be an avalanche of civil suits coming their way.
Yeah, that's going to happen. And I don't know. And Tim is probably absolutely right on this. Why bother? Why bother saying anything? Put a statement out, a written statement out, put it on the media, let it go. You're not going to do anything anyway. She's not going to name anybody because Ace is going to try to avoid this. But realize if she profits from that documentary, from the crimes of him, that means why not go after her at that point? And you're going to put her up there. And you're going to try to say, well, she's going to say something from the heart. She did. That's fine. But the reality is, why would you do this if you have no expectation of anything happening? You're not stopping the lawsuits. They're going to come fast and furious. She is, by her own account, she did not know, and he's saying he did not know. It's difficult to say. We've seen individuals kind of compartmentalize their lives, like don't go in the basement or do this. I mean, there's got to be something. From what we've understood, most of what he did at this time was when they were away. But the reality is, you can't, the double life that people lead, they can do. I'm not saying she's to blame, but she's going to be liable because if you're going to profit from his murders by doing whatever shows or documentaries, you're as accountable to financial dealings as he is, and you're going to get sued for it.
Yeah. Thank you for that, David. And they're going to get sued, and I'm sure that that they're going to lose some of these lawsuits. It's going to be, I don't think the victims are going to recover much money. I don't think there's any money to recover. I mean, Tim, what about that? Is it sort of like a fruitless endeavor? Because I mean, they're not going to have money. They're probably broke right now from just dealing with attorney's fees and handling all the litigation that's already come their way.
Well, they may not get any money. And sometimes clients don't always want money. They want to get responsibility. On the other hand, you might have a personal injury lawyer who wants to get his name out there. And they know if they file a lawsuit against a family, it's going to get picked up. They're going to get media attention. And while they may not make any money on the case, they're going to get media attention. And that's what drives a lot of lawyers. So, and lawsuits aren't always about money. I've had clients and they just didn't they knew they might lose, but it was principle. They wanted to go through the process. But that's the civil arena. I try to stay out of that civil arena. It's not my area. Personal injury lawyers, it's not my area.
Yeah, you're looking here at a photo from Massapequa Park, which is a nice little neighborhood out on Long Island, where the houses are, by the way, kept impeccably. The lawns, the front lawns, but this house always stood out to people as sort of being the creepy house, and that's because it is Rex Heuermann's house, and the creep does in fact, or did in fact, live there. But it's a small home, David Sarney. Not pointing the finger at Asa, because a lot of times apparently they were out of the country or away when he would commit these crimes. But I do have to say it's a very tiny, relatively small house, especially for that neighborhood, David.
Right. Apparently, a lot of the incidents they were able to track was when they were not at the house. But there's got to be something, within your as a wife and a mother, knowing or feeling that something isn't right with the person that you're laying in bed with every day. I don't know the relationship. I don't know how they were, personal wise to each other. But can you live a separate life than someone who lives in the house? It can be done. I live in New York, and we've had situations where you break up with girlfriends, boyfriends, or any relationship. You kind of can do separation for a while, but things leak out. And somehow that's why it's so weird that as to when these murders have stopped. And all we know is they stop at a certain time frame. But do we think they continued on outside the house? That's why that almost like a playbook he created on how not to get caught. That could be something else. And you have victim 1 and then victim 8. And they did change in the way in which he handled the bodies and dealt with the situation. As a person who lives in a small residence in New York City, everything is noticeable. But how their relationship may have created that dynamic where don't touch this, don't do this, and she abided by that.
From Jamie Loon as here, they knew about the basement. Don't know. I mean, you think they did? I think Asa talked about the basement at one point. And then Tim, looks like David's froze up a little bit. Why admit to Karen V if there are more? He added her. He didn't have to. He didn't plead to that. We found out, but he did admit to it. So
Right.
I guess the question is, why admit to it?
It's interesting in that lawyer's statement when he said when he decided to plead guilty, it seemed to suggest that the defense lawyers wanted to go through the trial and the defendant called the end to it and that they wanted to move forward. Anytime a lawyer goes out there and proclaims their client's innocence, you'll say, well, we believe we're going to prove him not guilty, or we don't think he did this, or we don't think. That's one thing. But to say, I don't think he did this, you're really putting yourself on the limb. And you lose all credibility when you do that. And then later, 2.5 years later, you're like thanking everybody the crimes have solved, or this is the guy that did it. You just lose all credibility.
Yeah. Tim, let me get back to so Michael Brown again, the criminal defense attorney.
Was he retained or publicly appointed?
I think he was retained. David, I can't imagine Rex had too much money after a certain point.
Yeah, I'm a little confused on that fact too. I mean, this is something, again, I don't know, but if you take this as a case, you're going to try to do the best you can. You want to get your name out there. And I've never seen this attorney before. Again, Suffolk County deals with things differently. This wasn't like you'd see Agnafilo take it or a Bronfman or someone with a big name. It was somebody who may be just trying to get a name out there. So that's the thing. I don't know about why he took it. But it's a case that, he threw everything against the wall to hope it would stick. And, it didn't work because everything they kept saying about the evidence and fighting the DNA analysis, it all fell apart. You take it to trial, and Tim would probably say this. Tim's, reality is trials are crapshoots. They really are. Trials are meant. I just was watching a clip and I saw what are trials meant for? They're meant to win. And I think that's why the defense attorney if he wanted to go to trial, you want to throw out there the Chewbacca defense, talk about everything but the case. All these things come into play, and you can always get that one person to believe that it didn't happen beyond a reasonable doubt. So why Rex did it, his belief system, whatever decided him to do it. And then talk about the 8th murder. That's, I don't know what the attorney has to abide by what his client wanted him to do.
Yeah, good point. And that could be something between him and the attorney. From Grateful here, were Ace and the kids never home when he did those things? Has that ever been proven? I know several of the cases they were out of the country, some of the early ones, but I don't know about all 8 of these if it was proven. Yeah, I was going to ask you that question, COE, and I'll come back to you in a little bit when we're through this to figure it out. The next press conference is not for about 55 minutes, and that is supposed to be with Ray Tierney, the district attorney out in Suffolk County, Long Island. But Tim, back to Michael Brown. He says, when Rex decided to accept responsibility, everything about this guy irritates me. Like all of a sudden he decided he was going to, he wasn't responsible, but he just decided to accept responsibility. But part of the conditions that we found out about, Tim, he's going to cooperate with the FBI and also with their behavioral analysis unit. And for those who don't know, that's where like Dr. Ann Burgess, Greg McCrary, who we've had on, those are the profilers. So, Tim, that's interesting to me. Part of the conditions are they have to cooperate with the behavioral analysis unit, I guess, so the FBI can get more information on these kinds of depraved minds.
Yeah, that's, fortunately, I've never had a case like that where I had my client wanted the behavioral unit to part of the plea. Of course, the FBI wants to get into the mind of this sick person. I don't know what the benefit is. And how do you even qualify or quantify his cooperation? He talks to him for 15 minutes. Is that cooperating? Are they going to overturn the plea if he doesn't? No. I don't think New York has a death penalty, correct? So he's getting life. They can't do any more to him than that unless they can prove he committed a crime outside of New York in a state that has a death penalty. And I don't know if the feds would have jurisdiction on any of these victims to give him the possible death penalty. So I don't know what they really could do to him. It's surprising that the lawyer had this big press conference. I don't know what he said that was of any importance.
Yeah, I agree. Mainly to pat himself on the back, I think. This is an interesting perspective from Tassie here. Every criminal has a family, and they're all affected. My father was a terrible criminal, and we didn't know the extent until later. Sorry to hear that.
I agree with that sentiment. I've got clients that commit crimes, and the spouses do things, and the other spouse has no idea. And you wonder how that can happen, but I'm telling you, it does. I got a client, trying to meet minors online, and spouse had no idea. And same house.
Yeah. It's a lot to take in. This is one of New York's worst, if not the worst, serial killer, and has just pleaded guilty, saving a lot of families from a lot of heartache. Hearing all the details. COE, let's bring up. Is that video that you have, COE? Okay, here we go. So this is the digital evidence that was recovered here. Over 350 electronic devices were seized from the home. That 350, that's a lot. And his Manhattan office. These contained, and this is triggering, violent bondage and torture pornography, along with extensive internet searches for the Gilgo Beach case and victims. Trace evidence and forensic material. Investigators removed a child-sized doll in a glass case. Creepy. And I think that was hers, actually. A portrait of a bruised woman, even creepier, and various pieces of furniture. They also cut open a vinyl bathtub and removed flooring, according to reports from his estranged wife's attorney. I mean, David Sarney, even for the most seasoned homicide detectives, this takes you into territory where most people have never waded into. It's got to be really tough on law enforcement on top of everyone else, David.
Yeah, it's a dark tunnel. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. The more you get, the more things you peel off, the deeper and darker you're seeing this individual. And then you have that, that holy F moment. And I'm just going to be it that way. Like, this is unbelievable how deeply depraved this person is. But it all comes down to the reality. It's all circumstantial. That's why, when we talk about this case, it's been it's an extremely circumstantial case. There you have DNA, but you can always, I've walked through cases where you don't fight, you can fight the DNA retrieval on that. You can fight all of these things on it. The benefit, the positives of this is how the detectives did such a thorough investigation from victim 1 to victim 8 to get all this evidence, and not only have that evidence and make the arrest, but the follow-up. And this is what it comes down to, the follow-up of the evidence they have. And one of the things that, he wants to go to talk to BAU, but we're seeing a lot of times, and again, I'm not a psychologist, I'm sort of a detective hack in this, but people keep trophies, keep things to remind of what they do or things to excite them. And that's why they had all this information from him, the video evidence he had, the trace evidence, the DNA that was recovered. You could think you can get the perfect crime, but there's no longer a perfect crime available out there that anyone can get, because if the police are looking for you, trust me, we will find you and we will arrest you and we will get all the evidence to convict you. And that's what that's what these guys did from 1993 onward. That's why, I appreciate what the detectives did, because if this didn't happen, he would not be pleading guilty to these murders if they didn't do the job they're supposed to do.
All good points and valid points. And I mean, the police work, there was periods where people thought this was never getting solved because there was kind of a corrupt prior administration in Suffolk County. But luckily, Ray Tierney got in there and things got straightened out. Tim, one of the things Michael Brown, the defense attorney for Rex Heuermann, kept bringing up was this Fry hearing. For those who don't know, what is it? I'm not sure what exactly he was pointing to specifically in that Fry hearing, but can you help us with that?
Well, I haven't seen it, but the Fry hearing used it's get in scientific evidence or get in some evidence. I think it was a DNA. It's kind of a new area. And the one lawyer, the female lawyer, was trying to say, well, different judges can rule differently. Yeah, well, the judge on your case ruled the way they did. It happens. Technology, is so changed and rapidly changing that in my career over the last 40 years, we've seen all kinds of new stuff come in, and it always has to go through the system. And the courts have to rely on it, what's necessary. The police have to know what they need to do to make sure the evidence is clean and clear. So it's a constant, the criminals are always pushing the envelope. The police are always trying to get it all fit into a puzzle, and it's a normal thing. This new technology, the genealogy and all that's a whole new area that they're going into. We had the whole thing where your phones, you can geo-track where the phone is on these towers. That's a new area. Your relative DNA, like in Kohlberger, is a new thing. We're always going to have cases and scientific evidence and experts that a court has to be satisfied that it's reliable science backed up by practice and procedures. It's accepted in the industry, and it's subject to being repeated, so you have a fair trial. And that's what happened in this case. It'll happen 25 years from now. And I didn't watch the whole ruling. I didn't see what her arguments were, but he did say that after that Fry ruling, the numbers were so astronomical that they couldn't get around. It's like DNA. Sometimes it's 1 in 5 billion that this is not the person. Yeah. As a defense lawyer, you're like, okay, that's enough for me. I'm not getting around that.
Yeah. It's crazy. Little Miss Red Velvet. Can you ask Tim? So there was talk before today's hearing that the judge was going to demand details, but it seems like it was very surface level stuff, Tim. How come? How come you didn't dig deeper?
That's funny because I go in different courtrooms all over the state. Some judges require a full allocution. They ask the defendant questions, got to answer them. I've had judges say, you tell me what you did. They make the defendant exactly tell them what they did. Then the judge accepts it. In Leon County, where I go, we have no contest pleas. And the defendant says, no, I'm not saying I did or I didn't do it. This is a plea in my best interest. And lawyer, will you stipulate to a factual basis? Yes, we will. And that's it. That's all you get. So sometimes the allocution, like in federal court, The judges will go through the elements as a factual basis typed up. You initial it. The judge will ask you if all these facts are accurate and if there's some changes. But then in federal court, are you pleading guilty, sir? Because you are guilty. No, none of this, Alfred, please, none of this, pleading no contest. This one probably should have required, and maybe the judge says, I'm not going to do it for the sake of the victims. I don't want him to tell in front of the court and the victims exactly what was happened to their loved ones. And I appreciate that because it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, for sure. Here's a timeline of the key events in this case for those who are relatively new. 1993, Sandra Costilla discovered dead. He pleaded guilty to her. Valerie Mack goes missing in 2000. Jessica Taylor, 2003. July 2007 to September 2010, you get Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, Amber Lynn Costello. And today you should be saying these names, and you should force, and I don't know if they had him say the names in court, but I sure hope that they did. May 2010, Shannon Gilbert disappears after a frantic 911 call saying she was being followed by someone, and that someone was almost definitely Rex Heuermann. Then you jump down to May 2011. 6 more sets of human remains are found, including Taylor and Mack, but also a female toddler, an Asian male dressed in women's clothing. That's the Asian Jane Doe that David was talking about. A skull belonging to Karen Vergata. He admitted to that today. She disappeared in 1996. So this goes back. That is 30 years, if my math is right. Exactly 30 years back to 1996. And a woman with a tattoo of peaches on her torso, later confirmed to be the mother of the toddler. 2011, the body of Shannon Gilbert is found, and on we go. So this has been, you can see, going from 93, last 30 years. And today it all came to a head with Rex Heuermann pleading guilty to the 7 murders and then admitting to the death of Karen Vergata. He admitted in court that he strangled and dismembered 8 women, dumping the remains along Long Island, New York. Doesn't get worse than that. David Sarney, since Tim is a criminal defense attorney, let me come to you. Michael Brown said, and I quote here, "I never said a bad word about them." He's patting himself on the back for never saying a bad word about the victims. Gee, thanks, Michael Brown. He said, this is the exact wording he used. Some of them, quote unquote, ran into hard times. It's an interesting phrase. I mean, these were sex workers, but they also ran into your client, who's the worst monster in the world, that took their lives. And he said it was always about attacking the evidence. I don't know, David. It just irritates the crap out of me to hear these defense attorneys getting up there and he's stroking his own ego, saying what a great attorney he was because he never said a bad word about these women.
Well, that's what attorneys do. The attorneys are going to defend their client to the best of their ability, whether you like it or not. And I've been on the stand, I've testified, and what their job is, and I do this with I teach at college, and I tell them the same thing. They attack the evidence, they attack the detective sometimes because of their personality. They find weaknesses in that. You couldn't fight the evidence that they had because it was so damning. So what you do is you attack the recovery of the evidence, and you're going to praise you're going to say, I did what I did because that's my client. Of course you're going to do that, because now he has to find another client because he has to pay bills too. And this is the American criminal justice system, whether you like it or not. That's what he can do. And patting yourself on the back, saying that I didn't say anything bad about them. What could you say? They've been murdered, and now we know by your client. So there's nothing to defend or say about it that I didn't say a bad word. Look at me. If we were going to trial and this went to trial, I tell you now, every detective, any who touched that evidence, the chain of custody, would have been assaulted. It would have been an absolute bloodbath of dealing with a chain of custody, documentation of the evidence, all those things. You can't refute the things that happened. Timeline would be refuted, obviously. That's what defense attorneys do. And I'm not going to say it's right or wrong. That's the process. And that's why this plea is so important for the family. And I think the allocution was not as detailed because maybe it was for the respect of the family. And to imagine sitting there and having this person tell you that I killed your daughters. This is how I did it. And you've got to sit there. You have him saying that he did it. That's enough sometimes. But my concern was if this went to trial and the length of the trial would have been, they would have been driven through the mud because he's saying this after the fact. What would he have been doing at trial and saying that they're sex workers and they were, this is what they did. Their lives are horrible and miserable. And this is not my client. My client didn't do anything about it. These people ran into bad moments in their lives. They were all murdered and found in Gilgo Beach. That's what they did. I wasn't our fault. He was going to do that. And that's okay. Accept that as a detective, but realize you have to be the one to speak for the dead. That's what detectives do. And this is why homicide detectives speak for the dead. And that's what they were going to do if they went to trial on this. And I would say beneficial to the families have to go through that.
Yeah, I like that homicide detectives speak for the dead. I like that. What I dislike here from Coffee Cart is defense lawyers go to ridiculous lengths, not reasonable lengths for their clients. I mean, David, before I go back to Tim, he didn't say that his client was not guilty. He proclaimed Rex Heuermann's innocence. He was like, this guy is innocent of these crimes, previously, and today he's there, saying, oh, I never went after the victims. Well, why did you say that your client was? I mean, don't you have to be careful? And Tim, you can weigh in on this too. But David, if you're the defense attorney, you've got this guy as your client. Maybe you're better off saying, yeah, he's not, he's not guilty, as opposed to he's innocent, which I believe Michael Brown has said in the past.
That's a smokescreen. I hate to say it, and I bring up South Park. South Park, I think, called the Chewbacca defense. And you talk about everything but the case. You're going to talk about my client he's an established individual. He has a business. He would never do any of this. This is something that someone else did this. It's not my client. It's not my client. And you'll keep badgering and you keep putting it out there. And it comes down to when I'm a hack when it comes to that type of psychology. But if you keep saying the same thing over and over again, people tend to believe it. A lie, the truth, by the time a lie gets around, the truth, it's just that whole thing about the lie. Push the lie as long as you can. Push that mistruth. And people say, you know what? Maybe it didn't happen the way it did. Maybe he didn't do this. Maybe he didn't do that. We see it all the time. Deny, deny, deny. That's what people do. You could be in bed with another person in your family. Your wife or husband come home and you're in bed with another person. What's the thing to do? Deny, deny, deny. I don't know. You don't know what you're talking about, honey. You gaslight. You push all those things. That's what the defense attorney is going to do. They do it for their client, and they do it because the criminal justice system allows them to do that. And that is fine. That's the way it's supposed to be. You have to fight for the client to your best ability because you never know when you're going to be a defendant in a case that you want your defense attorney to fight for you. And if it's wrong in saying that he's innocent, okay, yeah, we know he's not. We already knew that. The evidence showed that. But say it until you get maybe someone will believe you.
Someone asked, is he sorry? And the answer was, I would hope so. I don't think this guy is sorry at all. And I don't necessarily expect to hear that. Michael Brown said we might hear something at sentencing on June 17th. Tim Jansen, Michael Brown also said the case is now over from our standpoint. He said there'll be no further prosecutions. And Tim clarified that it's involving these at least 7 women because he didn't plead to the 8th yet. It's unclear what could happen with Karen Vergata or if new bodies or victims are found. Michael Brown then went on to say, I respect the press. Wow. Thanks. Even though he yells at him constantly. Questions came in. And the first question was, what changed? And he simply said there came a point where Rex wanted to plead guilty. He talked about the fact that these cases would not be severed. They'd be tried collectively. Some people in the media basically barked at him saying, look, you got up here and said your client was innocent. And he said, it's not about what I think, Tim. That was, typical lawyer politician answer. He goes, well, it's not important. It mattered back then what people thought, but today it doesn't matter that Michael Brown thought he was innocent. Again, Tim, not to belabor that point, but if you were defending him, would you at least just say this guy is not guilty of these crimes as opposed to this guy is innocent? He didn't do any of this.
Well, I don't know when he said it. Now, if he did it when he first got arrested, the standard is going to be, listen, we're going to conduct our own investigation. We're going to determine if these allegations are true or not. We're going to determine and possibly prove our client did not commit these crimes. Why would you commit yourself to something more than that? Okay? Because once you lose credibility, as a defense lawyer, it's not just that case. It's every case you have down the road. And if you go out on a limb and say, this guy's innocent, he's innocent, and then it comes out that he's not innocent and you knew he wasn't innocent, you have a fool for a lawyer. He should have never said anything about these victims. They were murdered. They were murdered by either his client or someone else. Why say that they were in a bad place? Or he's just terrorizing the victims again. I just don't think this lawyer has enough experience in high-profile cases. I think he was dying for attention. I think he wanted this case to go on as long as it could go. And I think he's probably disappointed that the defendant decided to plead. And he wanted to have one last stab at a press conference and talk about the brilliant motion that the other lawyer wrote. It lost. The other brilliant lawyer. What are all these things they did, which they had to do because they're responsible. Make sure all the process, every right. But you don't need to go out there and brag about it. He pled guilty. He's getting life. Move on. It's an embarrassment to defense lawyers. I really am. I'm ashamed when I saw him do it. Equally ashamed that the lawyer representing the wife reading that thing. And it makes us look bad. I've told you many times, Joel, circumstantial evidence cases can be stronger and are stronger than eyewitness testimony cases. They really are. I've seen the strongest. I had a FAMU bombing case here. It was the strongest case I've seen. No eyewitness could put my client to scene, but every piece, and it's strong. Eyewitness cases have given more people off death row because eyewitness testimony is usually the worst. People believe what they think they believe. DNA came back out and said, no, they got the wrong person. But circumstantial evidence, and people are always saying it's only the law allows it. And you saw it here.
By the way, thank you, Tim. The prosecutor, Ray Tierney, is expected to speak in about 33 minutes, and I don't know that we're going to be speaking for the next 33 minutes. Either way, I think we'll stay here. I just want to, COE, if you're there and you want to give us some guidance on that, that would be fantastic. I think that I will leave. We're going to get some final thoughts, and I'll leave the stream up, and I'll be here, and I'll be back. And I don't know if Tim or David could stick around. I think they're running out of time themselves. But Miss Annie K, thank you for this. But while we await that, David, what do you think the real sort of reason is that he decided to plead? Do you think it's that he didn't want his family to hear the details? Do you think he was just cornered? He probably would have liked the attention of a trial. So what do you think precipitated this decision?
I don't know. And that's the thing. I know apparently his health is not an issue. Did he find religion in a sense and decide today's the day I've decided I have to change my ways? I can't say. He lived this life and he continued to live this life because I still do not believe. And again, it's not what I prove, what I think, it's what I can prove. I think he's done more. I believe that in my heart he has. We haven't found them yet. Maybe that's the reason why they're going to see if anything more comes of this with BAU. Somehow they get more information from him later on. Because to stop cold that he did he find religion then and decide this is the way it was? I mean, he called up and tormented some of these people with phone calls. This is a person who made a playbook on this. All of a sudden he finds morality. I don't know. The end of the road, it's time to go, that type of thing. I don't know. But he kept this secret for decades from his family. And all of a sudden it took an arrest and 3 years later to say, yeah, I did it. I did these and an extra. That's what it seems like. Does he have remorse? Who knows? I don't know. But the thing is, this is a person who did not stop. And I don't think he ever stopped. He only stopped when he was arrested and held. That's when it stopped. the ideology he kept, the trophies he was keeping, the playbook, all of that. Would he have done it again and continue to do it again? More than likely, yes. The benefit of all this is he is no longer a threat to society. He will live his New York State ID number, and that's the only way he should be remembered anymore. And when he's dead, he's dead. That's fine. And wherever place he goes at that point, whether he thinks he goes to heaven or hell, I don't know. And that's his religious beliefs. And that's why I can't say one way or another who he is. But I'll tell you, he should die in prison. And I don't care what happens to him at that point. But I will tell you, there will be more found. And hopefully, again, just Gilgo Beach is a big place. Big place. And it's only scratched the surface. Who knows? That's been a killing field for a while.
Yeah, and it goes to Jersey, South Carolina, Nevada, Las Vegas. So there's a lot of places bodies could turn up. And someone is saying that CODIS will tell the tale. That's going to be interesting. Tim, from your defense perspective, what needs to be accomplished from the defense at sentencing on June 17th? A sentencing date was announced June 17th.
This is going to be a pro forma sentencing. He's going to get 7 life sentences. He may be able to allocution. They may give him a fine or something. The victims will obviously have a chance to respond or speak to him. But it's not going to change his sentence in any way. He's still going to get life sentences, which he so deservedly deserves.
Yeah, he's never getting out of there. That's for damn sure. David Sarney, to you, what happens to the investigation now? Not only with these 8 women, I mean, let's start there. The 8 women that he is now either pled guilty to or Karen Vergata, where he admits to killing her. Are you still working those cases?
Well, once you have that sentence and that the case will be ended at that point. He's making admissions to murdering those 8 women. There it ends on the investigative part. But here it comes back down to that CODIS thing and looking at NamUs and with all the missings and going to VICAP, looking at any type of person who's been deemed missing. You start looking at these things. You start tracking him and seeing where his whereabouts. He went all over the country. So, and it comes back to the same thing, missings. He targeted missing women because no one would think they were missing. He didn't care about the families. He cared about whatever feelings he had toward murdering these women. But he selectively had sex workers because no one would look for them. And the thing is, we're going to have more of these cases looked at. And anywhere he's been, any missings that they've had or any unidentified DOAs that they've had should be looked at to see if he's involved in it. Because, this person, that's why no remorse. He did one. He then started to perfect the other ones that he did. This is not a person of any empathy, doesn't feel. He had what he wanted to do. He did it, and he's admitting to it finally. The cases on these will be closed, finalized, cleared with the arrest. But there will be others out there. And like I said, Gilgo Beach is massive. And where he has been have other places where they've had sex workers who've never been missing, never been told, say they're missing. It's not a crime to go missing. It's based on you're deemed, it's criminal based on what the missing is. If you have a criminal aspect to it, that's the reason why you're missing, such as these women were. They were missing and found dead. And then we found out the reason why they were missing is this individual murdered them.
David, in New York, you might know this better than Tim, actually, but in New York, can the judge make them consecutive life sentences as opposed to concurrent, so he never sees the light of day?
I don't know this judge. I don't think that would happen. I think with the allocution that he does, the admissions to murdering these 8 women, I don't see a judge doing that. Again, judges are all different. New York is an interesting place. New York City has a very unusual way in which judges work. And I don't see this judge being that way and saying, we're doing this. I see him doing exactly what he did. The 8 murders, you're being held, you're pleading to murder ones, 3 murder ones, and 4 second-degree murders. This is what you're getting. This is what you're going to look at. You're going to look at all of these. So I don't see the judge doing that. But in New York State, man, there are judges that you are surprised that they actually passed the bar and somebody decided to put him in an office or they got elected.
Kelly McClellan here, relatively new friend of the show, but she is here. Tim, what is a global plea agreement? That's the wording they said when he admitted to killing Karen Vergata as part of all of this.
Well, usually a global plea agreement is you got multiple charges, multiple different charges, and this plea agreement is going to encompass all of those charges. So that probably going to run everything concurrent. All those charges will be sentences will be concurrent also.
And then Tim, what if down the road he gets popped for a murder in a place like South Carolina where there is a death penalty? Could he then face death in a different state?
I think that he could. I don't think any of these other states are bound by this plea agreement. If this offense occurred, depending on when this offense occurred, they could use this information, similar like we call it 404B evidence, to show how this person, and they could probably seek the death penalty and probably get the death penalty.
Tim from Ida Shaw JD, what do you think? Consecutive or concurrent? I mean, will the judge? I mean, it is New York. If this was Florida, this guy's never seeing the light of day. I don't think he's seeing the light of day. I mean, this is as bad as it gets, even in New York. The judge,
Florida, he would get consecutive. I don't know what the plea agreement. I don't have that in front of me. But if he was pleading to all these offenses, and the judge had discretion, they would run consecutive to each other. But he's not having an appeal. So, I mean, I'm sure he's waiving any rights to an appeal. Did he reserve any right to appeal anything?
I don't think so. I think he waived all his appeals. Yeah.
Me as a lawyer said this will end the cases.
Yeah, which, by the way, Tim, that brought me to another question I had for you. There was a case that we covered, and I can't remember specifically what it was, but someone, they basically agreed to a plea agreement, but then we found out after the fact they could, and part of the plea agreement was you're not going to be able to appeal the conviction, but there's some weird loophole where you can still appeal the conviction. Like, will Rex somehow be able to appeal this or no?
Well, we've entered pleas where we have the right to appeal the motion to suppress because it's binding on, it's the whole case is depending on that. So sometimes you get an appeal, you take a plea with the right to reserve the right to appeal that issue. But I don't know I haven't seen the plea agreement in this case.
Yeah. Someone's asking about serial killers admitting to their crimes. I think a lot have. They take joy in it. 8 Feathers of Hope. Please listen to that person and hit the like button. Just a couple more things. David Sarney, it was reported that he never once turned his head inside that courtroom. He never looked at the families, the gallery, anyone. He was just focused at the judge. And he was smirking. We have a clip of him, basically just the first part of this plea that they released. He's smirking there during that. What does that tell you?
What would you expect of him? I mean, people are looking to think he's going to get some, like I said, that moment of clarity that he did everything that he did was evil. That's not what this individual ever did. He continued to murder. He led a separate life, had a child, was married. He was able to separate, compartmentalize, and I always do this all the time, his life in murders and live a regular life and go to his office and work and continue on his life. If anyone thought he would have any remorse and look at the families and apologize, I have some beachfront property in Arizona to sell you because this guy is not that person. He's never been. He is what it is. He is nothing but now a NICID number and will never see the light of day again. That's the benefit of this plea. He should never be out again.
Tim Jansen, does a judge take that into account during sentencing if a defendant looks like he has zero remorse, particularly when he's accused of murdering 8 women the way he did?
Well, we saw that in Donald Adelson sentencing, right?
Yeah.
She did no remorse. Judge Everett said you're showing no remorse whatsoever, and he sentenced her to life. She was going to get life anyway, but I think on one of the other counts he had some discretion. But yeah, of course, judges see that. They can see, and it depends on the judge again. I agree with David. We have some judges are less conservative, some more conservative, And so it depends where you are. Some judges, I agree, I don't know how they got elected. And other judges are very good judges. So you never know what you're walking into unless you're in that courtroom all the time.
Final question for right now, Tim. The sentencing, June 17th, just lay out what should we expect? I mean, the judge will call the court to order. Does he get, do we hear victim impact statements and then the sentencing? And when does Rex get to speak? And will Rex's family have a chance to speak, do you think?
You know, we have called a pre-sentence report that will be completed because he's got no prior record, never been convicted felon. They're entitled to it. You can waive it. But they'll call the state attorney will make their statement. They'll say these victims want to read letters or they want to speak. And a lot of times victims will come speak and they want to look in the eyes of the person and they need closure, right? That's going to be so hard for them because it's terrible what this person did to these poor people. And sentencing is a horrible situation. It's not good to be there. Justice is met, but the family, they dread it. They're conflicted. They know he's going to get life, but then they got to see this guy and they got to speak and talk about their loved one. They bring up all this back up that they've bottled up inside. They've been missing and hoping that maybe the person's still alive. And now you see the person that took your loved one. It's hard.
The victims here, Melissa Barthélemy, and these are the victims that we know of. And if you listen to David Sarney and Mike from the NYPD, they think that there could be literally, fives, tens, dozens more. And maybe we'll learn that once we, get a CODIS report on this. But the victims, Melissa Barthélemy, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Megan Waterman, Amber Lynn Costello, Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, Sandra Costilla, and Karen Vergata. Let us, the way David is saying, to forget Rex Heuermann, let us remember those names. They've been dragged around without any sort of conclusion until today. April 8th of 2026. So hopefully their families can have a little more peace. There's never closure, but hopefully have a little more peace. So the only missing piece to this puzzle right now is the district attorney. He's supposed to speak in about 18 minutes. Tim, I know you have a busy day. Are you able to come back at 2 or no?
I can. I think a lot of the questions we have might be answered by the district attorney. What that plea encompasses, is it global? That's going to be. I'd like to know what that's going to be.
Yeah. And David, are you able to come back in about now 17 minutes, 18 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
This has been a case that, like I said, it bothered me because of the amount of women, and the issue has always been that. And we talk about missings and we see these things happen. And I think it's what the DA's office has been has guaranteed me constant communication with the families on this entire process going through. And you're going to see hopefully at least something more than what Tierney has done before, because they kept a lot of stuff close. This press conference hopefully is much more enlightening. I definitely want to see that.
All right, let's take about a 17-minute break. I'm going to put Tim and David and myself outside. You guys stay here. You can chat amongst yourselves, and then we'll have the press conference coming up momentarily. This comment is hilarious, Tim. I don't know if you saw this from our friend Lindsay. You have to connect with. We changed our foster pup's name to Timothy Jansen. My kids are confused.
Call him TJ. Don't Timothy Jansen. Just give him a TJ nickname.
That's hilarious.
Courtroom chef. Call him courtroom chef.
Courtroom chef. There you go. All right, everyone. 15-minute break here. We'll come back 2 o'clock for what is supposed to be a press conference with Ray Tierney, the prosecutor on this case. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back in just a few short minutes. All right. David and I are back. Tim will be back momentarily. This is continuing coverage of Rex Heuermann, the now admitted Long Island serial killer, at least admitting to 8 of the murders, pleading guilty to 7 of them today in court in Suffolk County, Long Island. And now the last piece of the puzzle, we have heard from the attorney for Rex Heuermann's family, for his wife, Asa Ellerup. A guy named Robert Macedonio is the attorney. He spoke earlier. And then we heard from Michael Brown, the criminal defense attorney for Rex Heuermann, who had his tail between his legs, as he should. And last but not least, now the final piece of this puzzle is going to be DA Ray Tierney, who put this all together. Tim is in the house. I'll bring him in here. And Kelly here, I think, saying, yeah, part of the plea agreement is that he agreed to be studied by FBI behavior analysis. That's called the BAU. Yeah, and he will be studied by the likes of people like Dr. Ann Burgess. That was David Sarney expressing some grief, and I have been there, not knowing or he being frozen out. He'll be back with a smile on his face. Tim Jansen, what do you think we hear from the prosecutor? It's going to happen any moment. Sometimes they run late. It's supposed to start 2 o'clock Eastern time, and Space Coast is on it. I see it behind the scenes here. But what do you think we can expect to hear from the DA in this case?
I think he's going to thank all the investigative people. I think he's going to talk directly to the family members. I think he's going to explain the plea offer. I think he's going to explain why they entered this plea agreement, what the parameters of the plea agreement encompass, what it does encompass, and why they did what they did, and that they're happy with law enforcement, and talk about the victims. I think that's, and probably ask for help if anybody recognizes, seen this person, or if you have a missing loved one in these neighborhoods, let us know. So doing the public service he should do.
Yeah, I was checking my emails, and as usual, and look, it is fair game. We see the background here. This is going to be a large press conference. It looks like family members are there. It's in some sort of gymnasium. Spacey, please, for my own mental health, let's leave this up, even if we need to maybe tweak the audio a little. Let's keep it. Maybe I'll mute it on. I was going to say I'll mute it on my end. I don't know if you need. It's going to start any second, so we'll leave the audio up. It's hissing a little bit, but you can see here this is going to be a substantial news conference.
Okay, ladies
here.
and gentlemen, one more voice test. Opportunity for one more voice test. At this point in time, all cell phones on silent, please, and/or do not disturb. Any other wireless devices that alert, please turn them off or silence them appropriately. So this will be the last voice check before we begin. Does anybody have any issues or need anything? Thank you very much.
All right, so you see they're doing the final audio test. You got a little behind-the-scenes glimpse here, but this is going to be a what appears to be a meaty press conference here with reporters salivating. And again, Laura Ingalls is supposed to join us for at least a short time tonight. She's here, and she was in court today. It'd be great if she can. She's going to be super busy, but I will follow up with her. And 7 o'clock, we're doing a wrap-up tonight with David Sarney, Mike Alcazar, and also Dr. Casey Jordan, who's a criminologist. So she studies and she's interviewed a lot of serial killers. She'll have interesting perspective. And then, of course, Laura Ingalls might be there. All right, I was just reading that banner, making sure that this isn't some sort of assembly for something like the Moose Lodge, entirely different, and it's not. It says Ray Tierney behind him, so we're good. So Tim just said what he was expecting, which is basically why they agreed to the plea. Probably will speak about the victims and some of their families. But David Sarney, why are you interested to hear from DA Ray Tierney?
Well, this has been the first time he's ever spoken about this entire case. He's kept everything close. The Suffolk County DA's office has been really good with that. There have been no leaks of information. Just the idea of the plea that was coming down came from the family, because I guarantee you, He's been in contact with the family throughout this entire process. And this is something you want to hear. I know he's going to thank, obviously, investigators, bring the family involved, tell them, lay out what's going to happen. I don't know if he's going to answer questions about it. There's a lot. This is an international press conference at this point. There's people all over the country and all over the world looking at this case because of, it's a high profile, obviously. But we'll see what he says. I mean, he's been very quiet throughout this whole thing, but maybe it'll be more elaborate in this instance.
And Tim, there's a question. Someone was asking why not like a blanket plea deal? Why did they go through each individual and plead to each individual instead of saying, hey, yeah, I plead just the group of 7 or the group of 8?
Well, they did an individual plea deal, right? Or did they?
Yeah, individual, correct. But I'm saying why not like a blanket deal?
Yeah, each individual is a different case, and you got to plead to that individual case and that victim.
All right.
These look like government employees.
Yep, this is going to be Ray Tierney. This is him at the podium. Let's listen in, everyone.
You all set? I'll take that as a yes. Okay, good afternoon. Thanks everyone for coming. This defendant walked among us, play acting as a normal suburban dad, when in reality, all along, he was obsessively targeting innocent women for death. He identified these women, lured them into Nassau County, murdered them, and left their bodies in Suffolk County. He thought that by killing them, he could silence them forever and get away with murder. But he was wrong, because it was these victims, these women, who refused to stay silent. First, that silence was broken by the victims' families, who advocated for their loved ones and agitated for justice. Then, the noise grew louder through the ensuing investigation and examination of the evidence that the defendant left at or around the crime scenes, as well as on the bodies of the women themselves, that further told the stories of these victims and what had actually happened to them. It was this evidence that ultimately was put together by the task force that proved to be the defendant's undoing and led to the pleas of guilt in today's court proceeding. And it is in this way that these murders were solved. And while we in law enforcement, as well as our Suffolk County citizens, mourn the loss of these victims, we are also grateful to them and to their families, because without them, this defendant would have never been brought to justice and would still be walking amongst us. And he would still be portraying himself as that same harmless father next door, instead of what he is, a convicted murderer. Ultimately, this case is really about these victims and their stories. It is not about this defendant. And I speak for everyone in law enforcement, and when I say we are honored and thankful for being able to have played a small role in obtaining a small measure of justice for these families. For decades, this case stood out as a painful scar on the face of Suffolk County law enforcement, Suffolk County government, the citizens of Suffolk County, and the victims' families as well. However, with the defendant's pleas of guilt today, it means that for the first time since the deaths of these women, we can turn to all of these same people and say, Rex Heuermann will be held responsible for the 1993 murder of Sandra Castilla, the 1996 murder of Karen Brigada, the 2000 murder of Valerie Mack, the 2003 murder of Jessica Taylor, the 2007 murder of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, the 2009 murder of Melissa Bartholomew, the June 2009 murder of Megan Waterman, and the September 2010 murder of Ms. Costello. Despite this tragedy, there's a lot of different emotions, and I guess the word for today, despite the tragedy, despite all those emotions, is thankfulness. We are thankful. We have a lot to be thankful for, despite these emotions. First and foremost, we are thankful for the victims and the victims' families who told their stories, their loved ones' stories, and defended their loved ones' legacies. Without them, we would have never truly gotten to know those victims. My start in this case occurred before I took office. A homicide prosecutor, a homicide detective with the Suffolk County PD, Pat Portella, gave my phone number to Melissa and Amanda. Melissa is, of course, Maureen Brainerd Barnes' sister, and Amanda is Melissa Barthelomew's sister. And they spoke with me. We had a really good phone conversation. And during that phone conversation, I heard the pain and frustration in their voices. They wanted answers. They wanted closure. I told them that we were going to do things differently. It was going to be a new manner of doing things. We were going to form a task force, and we were going to bring all of the talents of all these people standing here to bear, and we were going to work together. We were going to not use this case as a political football to be kicked into the news stream on slow days or whenever it suited the political leader's purpose. We were going to be quiet. We were going to pretend as though it was business as usual in Suffolk County. And the reason why we were going to do that was because we knew what we were doing. We were playing to an audience of one. And that one person, of course, was the murderer. We wanted to lure that individual into a false sense of security. We wanted him to think he got away with this. And that was exactly what we did. And the reason why we wanted to do that is because when we solved this case and we had those arrest warrants and executed those search warrants, we wanted more evidence, and that's exactly what we got. So we were thankful for that. We were thankful we were able to bring this case to a close, but it started, our inspiration was these victims and their families. But those families were so much more to us. Through them, we truly got to know these victims. When we started, the victims were nothing but names on a blotter, black and white, writing on investigative reports. But once we spoke to the victims, they provided us with the color of these women, and we got to know them as the wonderful mothers, sisters, friends, and daughters that they were. And that inspired us even more to close this case, to come to a resolution. So again, first and foremost, we are thankful for those families. And I just want to individually, mention all of the families. The Brainerd Barnes family, I already spoke with Melissa, but I want to thank Melissa and her husband, Chris, and their children. Marie, who is Maureen's mom, Nicolette and Dylan, who are Maureen's two children. We want to thank them for their support, not only of Maureen, but for our investigation as well. And we want to say, on behalf of Suffolk County, we're sorry. The Bartholomew family, Amanda, who's Melissa's sister, Lynn, her mom, and Jeff, Lynn's partner. We want to thank them as well. When this case started, it started with the grand. Well, it didn't start, but the charging started with the grand jury, and Amanda, Lynn, and Melissa came down and helped us with the grand jury. And I remember when Lynn came in, it was about 2-day proceeding, and when Lynn first walked in, she appeared a certain way, and by the end of that second day, she looked completely different. You could see that having forced her to relive this, you could see the sadness in her face and in her eyes, and we're sorry for that. But without their cooperation, we wouldn't be here today. So to Amanda, Lynn, Jeff, and everyone in the Bartholomew family, we want to say thank you, and we want to say we're sorry. To the Waterman family, we have Megan's aunt, Liz, and we have her daughter, Lily. We want to thank them. We didn't get to know them until after the indictment, but again, The way that they stood by Megan and the way they supported us, we want to say to them, thank you, and we're sorry. To Amber Costello and her family, specifically Amber's sister Kim, we want to say thank you, and again, thank you for the support, and again, we're sorry for the loss of Amber. Valerie Mack, we met shortly before the indictment. We met Ed and Joanne Mack. Ed and Joanne Mack were foster parents and then the adopted parents of Valerie, and they gave Valerie the only happy home she ever knew, and really the only support she probably ever knew in her life. Meeting with them, they're incredibly special people. They're heroes. We also got to know Valerie's sister Angela and her son Aaron. Again, equally wonderful people. So to them, we want to say thank you, and we're sorry. Jessica Taylor, we got to know Jessica's mom, Liz, after the indictment. Prior to the indictment, we got to know Jessica's cousin, Jasmine. And right after the initial indictment of the first 3 victims, Jasmine came to us on behalf of Liz and said, please help us. Please find out what happened to Jessica. And at that time, we didn't have enough. And we said, look, we're going to work and we're going to try to get there. And we're going to work as hard as we can. Please trust us. And, Jasmine, on behalf of Liz, said they would do just that. So to Jasmine and Liz, I want to say thank you. And again, we're sorry. To the Vergata family, Karen Vergata, we recently went, I did, I know members of the Suffolk County PD had already spoken to the family, but my team recently went and we saw Eric and Gary, who were Karen's sons. Gary's not here today, but we got to meet Gary, and I know Gary's watching, so we want to say hello to Gary. Eric's here. We want to thank Eric. And again, we want to thank you and tell them how much we admire them for supporting their mom and for supporting us. And again, we want to say we're sorry. On behalf of all of Suffolk County, we're sorry for Karen's passing. The Castilla family, Cassandra Castilla. We had the opportunity shortly before the indictment to meet with Ariel, who's the husband of Ruth, and Ruth is Sandra's sister. Again, wonderful people who really stood by and supported Sandra. So we want to thank them for that. We want to thank them for their support of our investigation. And on behalf of Suffolk County, we want to tell them we're sorry. We're sorry. So that's the family. Again, they inspired us. They're the reason why we do what we do. Today was a very special day for us in law enforcement. Because it gave us the opportunity to turn to these victims and their families and say, listen, we told you we were going to work really hard. We told you we were going to do everything we can to bring closure to you. And that's why we work in law enforcement. And, we were able to do that to a small measure today. So we're happy for that. And again, so thankful for them. In addition to our victims' families, we have our law enforcement family. And this case was, brought home by a task force that brought to bear the talents of a number of really great investigators from a lot of really great agencies. And again, so thankful to be able to have worked with so many talented people. It's not really, some people will say, well, this person solved Gilgo or that person solved Gilgo. That's not it at all. It was so many different pieces from so many different people, starting back in 1993 and culminating all the way through 2021. So again, and really beyond, actually. So again, so thankful for the great work. First and foremost, I have to thank my chief investigator, Rich Zacharies. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've had the benefit of working with truly the best investigators in the country and in the world. Rich is the finest investigator I've ever worked for and worked with. I do sometimes feel as though I work for him. But he was the architect of our grand jury. He put together our grand jury. And I think there's, whether it's an attorney or an investigator, I think there are very few people who could have done that logistically. And so to Rich, I want to say thank you. To our detective investigators, our analysts, again, all great. And I'm gonna mention a lot of people, and it's gonna, because it's not exciting to mention a lot of people, but they deserve mention. So I'm gonna mention them. We're gonna go through everyone, but not everyone, but a lot of people. We're gonna talk about our phone experts, Justin Doolittle and John Primiano. Unbelievable work in this case and so many others. Our analysts, Kaylee Homer, Erin Hansen, unbelievable work combing through this evidence, these miles of evidence. And that's just to name a few. They're indicative of so many more. Our law enforcement partners, we had our DA people, our PD, our FBI, our New York State Police, our Suffolk County Sheriff's Office, our core people, Rory Forrestall, a DI. I hired Rory. He was supposed to come in and help us with our child abuse section, but he got waylaid in here, and he worked like heck for us and did a great job. We're so thankful for Rory. For Suffolk County PD, our homicide guys who are still with the task force today, Chris Calvaca and Scott Aquilina, great individuals, great investigators. Thank you so much, Chris, Scott. We had Jimmy Watson, who worked with us and no longer with us. He's in Nassau. FBI agent Craig Mateo, Special Agent Craig Mateo. Everybody's young, I guess, compared to me, but I see him as a young guy, really talented agent, really great guy, really, really helpful. Investigator Tiffany Attai with the State Police. Again, along with Rory, Erin, and Kaylee, really, plunged into the evidence in this case and really, really helped us out. She was also the one who did the infamous avalanche search. So we want to thank Tiffany for all of the work and all the work that they all did. We have a number of retired task force and former law enforcement officers with us today. We invited them, and I saw John Santoro, I saw Donna Giordano, Pat Albergo, just to name a few. And we wanted to invite those retired members because, again, there was a lot of talk about this case, a lot of talk about, no one cared about the women, who were murdered in this case. That nothing could be further from the truth. I'll talk about Pat Alberga. He worked Jessica Taylor's case. He retired when we had brought enough evidence to bring that case together. We called Pat, and he came to help us testify. Actually, he and Donna Giordano testified for us. But when Pat Albergo, who's retired, came in, he sort of walked through the door like a kid, like a little kid walking down the stairs during Christmas. And he's like, "Why am I here?" And I'm like, "Because we're going to charge this case." He was thrilled. And that attitude is indicative of every single one of all these agencies. So grateful to work with all of these people, both past and present. Our ADAs, Nick Santamartino, Andrew Lee, Michelle Haddad, Larry Opizzo, God help them, right? They get to know what I'm really like. And so they were with us right from the very beginning, through the grand jury and through today. Great job by them. I want to thank them. My chief assistant, Alan Bodie, he really, along with Rich and I, we really thought a lot about how we were going to go forward with this case and planned a lot of things, from the grand jury. And he was really helpful with that. And also, he ran the office while I was running around pretending to be a lawyer. Our discovery expediters, our analysts, our paralegals, everyone. And that's just us. So now, we come to the Suffolk County PD, and, I'll talk a lot about Suffolk County PD was, with us every step of the way. Our police commissioner Catalina, our chief of department Bill Dougherty, our chief of detective Sean Barron, a whole host of other people are with us today. We have our Suffolk County sheriff, Errol Toulon, with us, as well as Undersheriff Kevin Heavey, as well as Undersheriff John Becker. We really want to thank those two agencies. We want to thank Errol Toulon, and we want to thank Police Commissioner Catalina. They're two phenomenal partners. I can say this about Suffolk County and Suffolk County citizens when it comes to Police Commissioner Catalina and Sheriff Toulon. You are all in wonderful company. In addition, with regard to our Sheriff's Department, they provided logistics and traffic and sex trafficking related intel throughout our interviews, helped us to identify a lot of potential interviews of inmates and other people who had been sex trafficked. So we want to thank Suffolk County Sheriff for that. With regard, we also have the FBI here. We have Special Agent in Charge Michael Raffa, who's the FBI New York Criminal Division. So Special Agent in Charge Raffa is in charge of the criminal division of the FBI in New York State. We want to thank Michael for coming in. We want to thank Supervisory Senior Resident Agent Don Osbacher, who's been with us from the very beginning. We want to thank them for lending us their expertise and, more importantly, their people. The cell phone analysis that we all heard about, that was done by the CAST, or cellular. The FBI CAST stands for Cellular Analysis Survey Team, and specifically Special Agents Eric Perry and Mike Sabrick. Those areas of interest.
Uh-oh, that is pool camera going out. Mid
In
there we
Manhattan and in Massapequa Park. That was developed because in 2011, Eric Perry drove with equipment through every single neighborhood and extensively mapped the cell phone coverage in those areas, and allowed us with special to develop these areas of interest. That had to be done in 2011. The landscape changed, the cell sites changed, after Superstorm Sandy, the geography changed. So, we went back to 2011, and that work that Eric did, and just phenomenal. So we want to thank the FBI. We want to thank Eric Perry and Mike Sabrick. They both created maps for us to use in the grand jury. They testified in the grand jury, as well as John Primiano from my office with the help of Justin Doolittle, and just great work. With regard to forensics in this case, I think I'd said earlier that IgG, investigative genetic genealogy, did not play a role in this case. I was wrong. I had forgotten that IgG was used to identify victim Valerie Mack prior to my involvement in the case. So I want to thank the FBI and Lori Giordano for that. They also, with us, helped to identify Karen Vergata. So again, thank you. FBI, they provided surveillance of the defendant, both in the city and on Long Island, and their surveillance team. I was nervous. I had never met these guys. I had worked for them, worked with them as a federal prosecutor, but that was a high risk, high reward thing. If they get made, everything comes down. If they get detected, but they weren't detected. Not only did they follow the defendant, but they recovered the abandonment samples. So we want to thank them. Suffolk County PD, they recovered DNA from the defendant's house. We want to thank the homicide squad for that. And again, working together, we were able to really develop that DNA evidence. So we want to thank them. Also, we provided, the FBI provided a searchable account, digitalized this entire file for us. We want to thank the FBI for that. New York State Police, today we have Major Chris Casal, who's the troop commander of Troop L. We have Captain Chris Jean, who works in Troop L as well. Again, they provided Tiffany Atai to our task force, who was integral to our success. They provided assistance to search warrants, of all the search warrants with regard to this case and all the various locations. They were on the scene with our Suffolk County Police Department gathering evidence. They transported evidence from the house to Suffolk County property, along again with Suffolk County PD. The avalanche truck They transported it from South Carolina to our lab. There was a Ram Charger from Pennsylvania that was associated with the Sandra Castilla case. State troopers took that from Pennsylvania, brought it to our lab. We were able to develop evidence linking that truck to the murder of Karen Vergata. We want to thank them. They provided us with K-9 units along with the NYPD, Suffolk County PD. I want to thank all of those agencies. I want to thank Nassau for helping us with the search warrant. I want to thank Nassau County DA's office for helping us with the prosecution of the weapons case. Our Suffolk County Crime Lab, we want to thank them. Tremendous work. I particularly, is Clyde here? Where's Clyde? Clyde, raise your hand. Where's Clyde? All right, Clyde's all the way in the back as usual, hiding. So Clyde was the hair analyst in this case. He collected hairs from all the victims in this case, save for Jessica Taylor. And he pushed the PD and he pushed our office to send certain hairs out for mitochondrial and then later nuclear DNA testing. And when we started this case, he was working with Nick Santomartino in my office, and he was recalling with great specificity certain hairs of interest that he thought were really going to bear fruit. And I was talking to Nick, and I was saying, does this guy really, like, is he really, like, did he really, was he this meticulous? Is he this sure? And so Nick said, sit down with him, sit down with Clyde. And we sat down with Clyde, and, to go to a crime scene, in the 2000s and not have the capability to get nuclear DNA, but yet to be so precise and exact in gathering evidence, cataloging the evidence, safeguarding the evidence, and then being able to advocate for its use. Without Clyde, we probably wouldn't have gotten that evidence. So, Clyde's retired now, but we really want to thank Clyde. Bob Jenna, he collected hairs on the Castilla case. He recovered 2 hairs. He was the former chief of Suffolk County Crime Lab. He's retired. He collected 2 hairs on Sandra Castilla. Did a great job, similar to Clyde. Don Doler, the former chief, he was the chief of the lab when we started this. Great job. We want to thank him. Connie Dinkle is the current chief of the lab, and she did a great job. Continues to do a great job. We want to thank them. Bob Bauman, Helen Wong, Liz Sepulveda, Kerry Anito, Craig Hamer. All of these forensic scientists did a fantastic job, and we want to thank them. Again, they were in the house with our law enforcement partners, gathering this evidence meticulously, precisely, and without. This is. I was thinking about this. This isn't a cast of hundreds. When you look at when you bring all this together, it's a cast of thousands. So we want to thank all of those individuals. Office of Chief Medical Examiner, City of New York, Brad Adams, Mark Desire, and Neha Desai. Brad Adams was the anthropologist. He identified the Gilgo 4 and he was the one who urged investigators to go back after the discovery of Melissa Barthelemy, which resulted in the discovery of the 3 other victims known as the Gilgo 4. Mark Desire is the assistant director of biology of the lab. He was our liaison. He made all of his people available to us. Ms. Desai, she testified for us in the grand jury. Her DNA analysis led to the identification of the Gilgo Beach 4. Again, she testified in the grand jury. A fantastic job. Our outside experts, mitotyping technologies, Gloria Dimmick and Jenna Manges. Gloria testified first in the grand jury. Fantastic scientist, fantastic person. Astria Forensic, Dr. Ed Green, Dr. Christina Valencia, Kelly Harkins Kincaid. Those scientists with Astria are at the very top of their field, and they did something revolutionary in this case, and they've set the bar high going forward, and we're going to be able to utilize this technology going forward to solve a great many cases. So we want to thank Astrea Forensics, and I want to tell you, if you think you're smart, you should spend a week with Dr. Green. and then suddenly you realize maybe you're not as smart as you think you are. At least that's the sense I got after spending time with all those great scientists. NYPD, again, they helped us with the cadaver search in April of 2025. We had individuals from their TARU unit testify in the grand jury with regard to phone calls made by the defendant. They helped us to attain records, missing person records involving in this case, spanning back years and years. Again, at a drop of a hat, even though it wasn't their case, they came in and helped us. Scarborough Police Department, with regard to Megan Waterman. The Megan Waterman case came in as a missing person case, and it went across the desk of a Detective Don Blatchford, who's here with us today. And Don, gathered the evidence and really did everything he could to try to locate Megan. And when the trail took him to Suffolk County, he didn't stop. He continued to help us in our investigation. He brought the Waterman family to Long Island for interviews and for court proceedings. He testified in the grand jury, and he's had a long, illustrious career in Maine. He's going to retire, but he held off his retirement to see this case through. And again, I talked about the Suffolk County PD guys who cared about these victims. Don Blatchford is another individual who cares about these victims, like all of the people in law enforcement. So we want to thank them. United States Secret Service, with the massive digital evidence in this case and their forensic science division, all of the massive amount of digital evidence, they helped us process it. We had their forensic science division, we recovered a Bounty paper towel off of the crime scene of Megan Waterman. They processed that and they compared that to the same Bounty towel that we recovered in the home of the defendant. They matched, and this was a memento that we argued the defendant kept. Would have been a key piece of evidence. So we want to thank the Secret Service for that. The telephone carriers, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, Nextel, and AT&T. Again, phone records spanning back to 1993. We've got to get those records in evidence. Again, Rich Zacharias was integral in this, but they went above and beyond they went above and beyond for us because they knew this case was important. We want to thank them. With regard to the court staff, Judge Mazie and his staff, I want to thank them for their courtesies, and I want to thank them for all that they did in their professionalism. And this is a difficult case, and they handled it with aplomb. So, I'm going to turn it over to our partners, but just to clarify regarding the plea of guilt, the defendant has pled guilty to 3 counts of murder in the first degree pertaining to the murders of Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. And all of those 3 individuals were killed within 18 months between July of 2009 and September of 2010. That enabled us, the proximity of those murders enabled us to charge those 3 murder 1 counts. In addition to the sentences of that is life without the possibility of parole. With regard to the other 4 victims, they pled guilty to 4 counts of murder in the second degree. That's Sandra Castilla, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Valerie Mack, and Jessica Taylor. Those sentences, 25 to life to run consecutive to each other and to the murder 1 charges. This defendant has additionally agreed to accept responsibility for the murder of Karen Vergata. And again, the sentence will be 25 years to life without the possibility of parole on the first 3 and 25 to life on the last 4, all of which is going to run consecutive. So we have 3 life without parole sentences and 4 25 to life sentences, all to run consecutive. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to our law enforcement partners. So I'm just going to leave with this. This case closes and another one opens. There are still, bodies on that beach. There are still bodies in Suffolk County. There's no rest for the weary. We are going to continue to work with our partners and to try to obtain closure for as many families as we can. Thank you very much. Catalina.
Thank you, District Attorney Tierney. The calm, serene, almost grandfatherly image that Rex Heuermann portrayed since his arrest was a lie. And quite frankly, an insult to both law enforcement, but more importantly, the families that had to endure that during every court appearance over the last 2.5 years. Today, he was exposed for exactly what he is, a sadistic, soulless, murderous monster. And thankfully, everybody today got to see that. I want to thank all of the members of law enforcement who were a part of this. As long a list as Ray, but most importantly, I want to thank the Suffolk County Police Department, both past and present. We have many retirees who came out here, participated in this case because, like Ray said, they cared, and this was a part of them for a long time. All of our law enforcement partners, everybody who was involved in this task force, really did, really an amazing, amazing job. So thank you to everybody who was involved in this. And to the families, no one can ever replace the lives that were taken from all of you, and way too often they were way too young. But we hope that this brings some measure of solace to you. So, thank you, and thank you for all your cooperation.
Next, we'll hear from Sheriff Toulon.
I want to thank the district attorney and this entire task force for the hard work that they've done over the last 2.5 years. Today's plea delivers a measure of justice to families who have waited decades for answers after unimaginable loss. While nothing can bring the loved ones back, I am proud we were able to hold Rex Heuermann accountable. Again, thanking the DA and the Police Commission and all the men and women who worked tirelessly. I also want to thank my staff, to uproot an entire jail security system to accommodate an individual of this magnitude over the last 2.5 years. Our staff has done a phenomenal job in our Riverhead facility where he's been housed, and also the staff that has been assigned to our anti-trafficking initiative. And since his arrest in 2023, my priority has been ensuring that he was safely housed in our correctional facilities because justice needed to be served in the courts and not in our jails. This responsibility is one for me and my officers who have taken very seriously. And I spent my entire career in corrections overseeing some of the most notorious individuals, and what has been the most alarming is how ordinary Heuermann has been. It's a chilling reminder that those capable of horrific acts can often go unnoticed, and another reminder of how much great investigative work has been done to finally apprehend and have a plea today. Most importantly, today is about the victims and their families. You have endured profound loss and years without answers. We hope this guilty plea brings all of you some peace and closure. Our thoughts remain with you and your loved ones today and always. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Special Agent in Charge of the FBI, Rafa.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Michael Rada, the Special Agent in Charge of FBI New York Field Office Criminal Division. I'm proud to stand alongside Suffolk County Police Department Commissioner Kevin Catalina, Suffolk County District Attorney Tierney, Suffolk County Sheriff Toulon, to announce the plea of Rex Heuermann, the Gilgo Beach serial killer. Today's announcement highlights the importance of partnerships and perseverance. For decades, the families of these women have been left searching for answers and waiting for justice. This ends today because these agencies before you never gave up. The detectives, the troopers, the agents tirelessly chased every lead and left no stone unturned. In 2011, FBI New York began collaborating with the Suffolk County Police Department to find out who was responsible for these cold-blooded murders. Our office leveraged many resources, some of which have been described already, over the years to include our CAST, our cellular analysis survey teams, behavior analysis teams, evidence response teams, the surveillance groups, forensic and document lab teams at Quantico, and investigative genealogy tools to identify some of Heuermann's victims and help Suffolk County Police piece this puzzle together. The close coordination across every agency ensured that a monster lurking in our community was held accountable for his heinous crimes. While we'll never be able to fill the hole in the lives of the victims' loved ones, I hope that today brings a small sense of closure. Once again, I'd like to thank our state and local partners for their unwavering determination and investigative grit, and that includes the retired agents, detectives, and troopers that are here today. To see them sitting in that courtroom today in the back of that room was really awe-inspiring. To see their commitment to justice doesn't end when they hand in their badge and gun when they retire. Finally, thank you to the agents and analysts of FBI New York Long Island Safe Streets Task Force, the Special Operations Group, our CAST folks, Investigative Genealogy Program folks, and I'd really like to thank DA Tierney and your office for what you did and the resolve that you showed in this case. Just tremendous. Thank you all.
So, Zach, Rafa has just been appointed from New Jersey to head the New York office, and we thank him for coming today, and we're really looking forward to continuing our great relationship with the FBI and our federal partners. Last but not least, we're going to hear from the state troopers and Chris Casal. Chris Casal was with us. Then he went to I believe Albany or New York City. He's back with us. We couldn't be happier, but he's going to say a few words.
Thank you, D.A. Tierney. I'm Major Christopher Casal. I served as the Troop Commander for the New York State Police, Troop L. Today marks a significant moment for Long Island and for the families who have endured unimaginable loss for many years. The guilty plea of Rex Heuermann represents a measure of accountability in a case that has deeply impacted our communities. While this brings us closer to justice, pain suffered by the victims and their loved ones. This outcome is a result of years of persistent investigative work and strong collaboration among our law enforcement partners who made up the Gilgo Beach Homicide Task Force, and I commend all of them for their dedication and extraordinary work on this case. It reflects an unwavering commitment to our mission to never forget the victims and to continue pursuing justice regardless of how much time has passed. This case not only underscores the importance of coordination across agencies, but the role of advancements in forensic science, technology, and intelligence sharing. Today is not a day of celebration, it is a day of reflection, accountability, and remembrance. We honor the victims and stand with their families who have shown extraordinary strength and resilience. The state police and all the agencies you see represented here remain committed to serving our communities and to the continued pursuit of justice for every case that is entrusted to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And now that you're back, we look forward to resuming our great relationship with you. Obviously, we have a lot of victims' families here. I believe that we are going to Gloria Allred represents a number of those victims, and I think they asked for Gloria to come forward and make a statement on behalf of many of the victims. So we'll call Ms. Allred.
Thank you. I'm Attorney Gloria Allred, and I represent a number of the family members who suffered the terrible fate of the tragedy that was inflicted on their loved one. Today, Rex Heuermann, who thought he had the perfect blueprint and plan for serial murder, pled guilty to the murder of 8 young women. Some of these murder victims were young mothers just trying to earn a little extra money to support their children, because many did not have funds to go to college or get a decent job that would help them to provide adequate support for their children. They turned to sex work in order to help their families. It wasn't what they wanted to do, but it was what they felt forced to do because they had no meaningful alternatives. Some wanted to help their parents, their grandparents, and their loved ones. Some just wanted to survive in this difficult and challenging world. Little did they know that the defendant, Rex Heuermann, did not care about their hopes and dreams, or that they had families and friends who loved them. He appeared to care only for himself and executing what he thought was his perfect blueprint for murder. The evidence gathered and articulated in the prosecutor's response to the defendant's bail application demonstrated that the defendant had a, quote, planning document, end quote, utilized by Heuermann to methodically blueprint and plan out his kills. And those are quotes from the bail application. He also believed he had a perfect plan to avoid collection of evidence against him and to evade capture by law enforcement. However, what he had thought was his perfect blueprint for serial murder did not take into account the courage and the persistence of the murder victims' family members who refused to give up until the murderer of their loved ones was found, convicted, and sent to prison for the rest of his life without the possibility of parole. Many of the murder victims' family members became the voices of their loved ones, crying out for them not to be ignored and forgotten, and demanding answers and justice for them. Many of those family members whom I represent are here today. It was bittersweet for them to be in court and hear the defendant plead guilty to the murder of their loved one and the manner of their death. But the truth was important to them, and they heard it today. Last week, they were faced with a difficult question. Did they agree with the Suffolk County District Attorney's decision to agree to accept the defendant's plea of guilty in lieu of trial? Or would they have preferred that a trial take place so that they could hear all of the evidence that the prosecutor would seek to admit against the defendant? In a few moments, you will hear their answers to that question. And I will ask them to come up to the microphone, or if they would prefer to stay where they are, they can answer from there. In no particular order. Family members of Megan Waterman, please come forward and state your name and relationship to Megan Waterman. Elizabeth Meserve is her aunt. A little louder, please, Elizabeth. Or can you come up here? Thank you.
My name is Elizabeth Meserve. I'm Megan Waterman's aunt, and I helped to raise her daughter. And on behalf of Megan, we definitely accept the plea.
Thank you. And also, we have with us Megan's daughter, Liliana Waterman. Oh, okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. Here.
My name is Liliana Waterman. I am the daughter of Megan Waterman, and on behalf of her and my aunt and all of our family back home, we do accept, and we are very, very thankful for everything that they've done for us.
Thank you. Family members of Melissa Bartholomew, please come forward and state your name and relationship to Melissa Bartholomew. Lynn Bartholomew, mother? No? Okay. Amanda Funderburg, sister?
I'm Elizabeth Vakeel. I'm Jessica Taylor's mother. And I am glad that this is over as far as him pleading guilty. It took a big chunk of stress off of me and my family.
Thank you. And you accepted the plea?
Oh, yes, I accept the plea wholeheartedly.
Thank you so much. And then we have Jasmine Robinson, who is a cousin of Jessica Taylor, victim Jessica Taylor. You okay? Family members of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, please come forward and state your name and relationship to Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Missy Khan, sister. Nicolette Brainerd Barnes, daughter. Dylan Haggett, son. This is Nicolette.
I am Nicolette Brainerd Barnes, the daughter of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, and on behalf of my mother, I accept this plea.
Thank you. Dylan Haggett.
I am Dylan Haggett, the son of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, and I accept the plea.
Thank you. Okay. So I think we have everyone that I represent. If there's anyone I don't represent who would like to say something, feel free to come forward. Okay. The defendant's plan to get away with the murders he committed was also unsuccessful. Okay, good. Thank you so much. Okay, I could actually just use this. Thank you. Somebody else. Oh, good. Just say your name, please.
I'm Diane Doherty, and I'm the mother of Karen's sons, Eric and Gary. And I just want to say I'm thankful that we came to a conclusion that brought peace to everybody. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, she will. Okay, good. Thank you. The defendant's plan to get away with the murders he committed was also unsuccessful because many law enforcement officers who participated in this massive investigation were so dedicated. We would like to thank each and every one of you who contributed to bringing the defendant to justice. We deeply appreciate you and your dedication to finding, testing, and preserving evidence for this case. The result today would never have been achieved without your hard work and sacrifice. Even if we cannot meet and thank each one of you in person, please know that your efforts on behalf of the families, loved ones, are respected and appreciated. We look forward to thanking as many of you as possible after the time of the sentencing in June. The journey to justice has been painful for each family member who I represent. In conclusion, Melissa Kahn, also known as Missy, would like to share her feelings about this day and the almost 2 decades in which she has sought justice for her sister, Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Missy.
Can I have my family behind me?
Of course you
Okay,
can,
perfect.
sure.
Thank you.
Would you like to use this?
Let's see.
Yeah, okay.
Hello? Okay. Hi, my name's Melissa Can. Everybody calls me Missy, and I'm the sister of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, and this is my family, well, some of it. First, I want to begin by thanking the District Attorney, his office, the detectives, the FBI, the New York State Police, and the entire task force. For years, they never stopped. They carried this case with determination and heart, and our family will forever be grateful. We are forever thankful for the work that led us here. Finally, a sense of relief. The guilty plea brings solace, and I like to thank everyone who had a part in that fight for justice. Thank you to our lawyer, Gloria Allred. I also would like to thank the media for continuing to keep this case in the public eye. Today is not about the person responsible. Today is about the women's lives who were stolen. It is about their voices, their future, and their families, the love that still surrounds them. They are the reason why we are here. 19 years, I lived in a space between heartbreak and hope. Throughout these years, I searched for answer, for truth, for justice. There were moments when the weight felt unbearable, but I never gave up. Maureen was never forgotten, not for a single moment. From the day she went missing until today, she has been carried in every breath, every memory, every fight for answers. This has been a long journey of hope that one day we would stand here and say her name with justice beside it. Today, that long, painful journey brings us to this moment. Our mission, our promise to Maureen, is finally met with accountability. For Melissa's, Megan's, Amber's, Jessica's, Valerie's, Sandra's, and Karen's family, I stand with you in deep love and understanding. No one should ever have to walk this path, yet here we all are, connected by loss, by strength, and the unbreakable bond of our loved ones. The bond some of us has created has been one that is unique in a sense that it did not form from a previous friendship or blood. It was created by trying to pick up the pieces of our world that had shattered in tragedy. And I am so grateful for us. To every family out there still searching, still waiting, still holding on, please do not give up hope. Even when it feels impossible, even when the years pass and the silence grow heavy, keep going. Your loved ones matter. They are not forgotten, and one day answers can come. Finally, to Maureen, the promise I made to you so long ago was simple. Sorry. I would never stop searching for justice for you. Through every year, every setback, every unanswered question, I carried you with me, and I kept that promise. And today, it has been done. Justice has finally found its way to you. Your voice was never silenced, your story never forgotten, and your life will always be more than the tragedy that took you. This moment is not the end, but a reminder that love endures, truth prevails, and hope never fades, because even in the darkest moments, justice will find its way. Thank you.
The victims will not be answering questions. I call them the victims because they are also victims, even though they are family of murder victims. I can take one question. And if there are none, yes, sir. Could you speak up a little, please?
His answer was, quote, he certainly wanted to save the families of the victims the ordeal of going to trial. I just wanted to hear what the victims' families thought of that sentence as part of the answer.
Not much.
Yeah.
I saw something on Facebook today that the New York Post is still calling our girls sex workers. Stop it.
I don't have a comment on anything he says. Perhaps the district attorney does.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah. So thank you, Ms. Allred. Thank you, Missy. Thanks to the victims. Does anybody have any questions? Yes. Well, you know, I think traditionally a change of plea is when, you know, they plead guilty to every single count in the indictment. In this sense, you know, we are going to be dismissing 3 charges, so that is a plea deal. Obviously, he's getting the maximum under the sentence. So how you categorize that, I would leave it to everyone. Yes. So I know, Mary, you're going to get sick of hearing this because I say it every time. Doesn't matter what I think, it matters what I can prove. You've heard that before, right, Mary? I think that, you know, first thing we need to, well, there's a number of things we can do, but a huge step in moving that case forward would be to finally identify that individual. We're continuing to work with that, IGG. And hopefully that we can do that, but we'll continue to work that case. We'll continue to work all the other, unfortunately, many cases in Suffolk County. So. Again, doesn't matter what I believe; it matters what I can prove. So, you know, I'll leave the belief and the conjecture up to whoever wants to do that. I'm going to, you know, continue to do what we do, speak through our indictments, and you know, we are where we are. But we're going to continue to work forward, and so gratifying to be able to provide closure for these families. Hopefully, for that individual and his family and the people who cared about him, we want that same closure. Yes. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Oh, it most certainly is case law. Do you work for the defense? It is. We prevailed in the Fry hearing. It happens all the time. Not every time that you make law in New York State does the case result in a trial. So, you know, that is the existing law since that decision. You know, like we knew it would. Nuclear DNA from hair samples has moved forward. We're on even stronger footing than we were at the time of the hearing. So we feel great about it, and we're happy. And you know, we're going to use that science. We're going to defend that science, and you know, let's do it. We feel great about it because the science is most definitely on our side. Yeah, I think we wanted to synopsize, so we wanted to name the victims, right? Because it's about them. We wanted, and you know, we're talking, starting in 1993, ending in September of 2010, we have these 8 women, right? And all of the years in between. So I think it provided a context of this defendant and what he's done and what he pled guilty to. So it was important for us to do it in that way. And then with regard to the allocution, every jurisdiction, there are elements for murder or what have you. Those elements are slightly different, and but in every jurisdiction, you have to prove each and every element of the crime charged against the defendant. So, for instance, when you ask the defendant how old he is, that's an element. He has to be above the age of 18. So, it's really the allocution is really guided by the elements of the crime, and it has to be satisfactory to the judge. So that's just the way we decided to do it. I mean, I think that's just the way we do it in New York. I mean, that's a standard plea, so he had, admitted responsibility, allocated to it. So that's that. We still have the sentencing, so we'll hear more on, from that. Yeah, we're not, we're not going to have individual investigators speak. Again, we want to thank Trooper or Investigator Attai for the great work she did in that regard, and very emblematic of all the great work that was done in this case. So with regard to the no further charges, that pertains to the 8 murders that were discussed. That's it. So with regard to other investigations, those potential investigations are not covered by the plea in this case. So we'll just have to see what happens with, see how that unfolds. But the plea and the coverage pertains to the 8 women that we were discussed in court today. That's it. Yes. Again, what we do is, when somebody wants information, we give it to them, and we share that information all the time. We've been sharing information. We'll continue to share that information. I think when people talk about, now he's going to, after sentencing, he'll go into CODIS, I said this before, but I want to make clear, we have the ability as investigators to provide evidence in our case on a case-by-case basis. So in other words, if there's a case in a state and they want specific information about one of our cases, we could share it, and we've done that. Yeah, sure. Again, I think that, the FBI does such phenomenal work, but then you have, the real work that the FBI does, and then, the work you see on TV. So, one of the many great units that the FBI has is its behavioral analysis unit, and that is, that unit at one of its core missions is like a clinical role. In other words, they're going to interview the defendant, gain insight into his motivations and background as sort of an academic and scientific exercise. So that's what that's about. They're a clinical. Those are clinical interviews. Those aren't investigative interviews. I believe that they're going to limit that to just the 4 corners of what he pled guilty to and try to gain insight. So they could gain insight and knowledge going forward on new cases, and that's kind of what the FBI does. Yeah, I believe it was. It was a Ram Charger owned by him, and it was Sandra Castilla. No. I was a federal prosecutor, and as a federal prosecutor, you have a lot more, I would say, sway with the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and you could sort of dictate, those things. In the state, the state Department of Corrections does their thing, and so not only is there nothing in there, I don't believe I would really be able to do anything. Obviously, so that'll be a function of the Department of Corrections, but no. Yeah, I mean, I think with regard to this, again, he's not serving less time, so as far as that, it's pretty much the best we could do. But I think every single case you have, there's these discussions, and talking talking about pleas as a prosecutor, that's third rail stuff, because defendants have a presumption of innocence. They have a right to trial. So imagine if every time in one of my cases in my office, I said, "Oh, Smith, yeah, he's going to plead guilty. He knows he did it." You know, that's third rail stuff. That's unethical behavior. So we don't talk about pleas, you know, because it would be unethical as prosecutors, because we're impeding upon that presumption of innocence. So we don't do that. Number one. Number two, we don't have control over what a particular defendant's going to do. And in every single case, there's talk of pleas. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't happen. You know, we prepare a case, we go forward, we see what happens. I don't think, until the allocution was completed, I didn't know whether or not this was going to go through. So you wait and see. I think people say, "Oh, it's going to be a plea." Well, maybe. No, I think I've been doing this for 30 years, and as a young prosecutor, you chase pleas. Every day you say, "Look, maybe we'll get a plea, maybe we'll get a plea." We'll call. It makes you look desperate. It takes you away from your preparation, so you go forward, and if the defendant decides to plead guilty, go ahead and let him plead guilty. But it doesn't really factor into our mindset, because a lot of times you're absolutely sure that a case is going to plead guilty. It doesn't. Other times you think it, and just the exact opposite. So you don't know, so you don't waste your time thinking about it. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for the families. Is there a personal anecdote or a favorite memory that you can share about your loved ones?
So Mr. Allred just said that the families were not taking questions. So perhaps offline you could address that. Yes. I don't really think it's sort of organic. It happens organically. What happens is you sort of go from talking about it and just going forward, and then at a certain point in time there was discussion with regard to Karm Vergata, and that's done in a proffer setting where the defendant discloses, but you can't use it against them unless they waive that. So, once that happened, we began to think that certainly a plea might occur, but you never know.
To clarify, it was only after the Karm Vergata case was connected to Mr. Heuermann that there were discussions, have there been a framework? I know you said it's always happened, but we just want to be able to pinpoint on.
Yeah, well, normally, say this was a robbery case, right? And there's a maximum of 25 years, and the person could get 10 years, right? So you're negotiating, all right, I think we could dispose of this for 12 years or 10 years or 6 years or whatever it is. That's a normal plea. There was no negotiation with regard to numbers. So it was basically we'll continue to work this case. If it comes a time when this defendant, and it's the defendant's decision, when this defendant wants to plead guilty, we'll go ahead and take it. But we're not discussing, we'll give him this or we'll give him that. So there really wasn't all those discussions. And I can tell you that, the reason why this case pled guilty was because it was the defendant's decision to do so. The defendant wanted to plead guilty. If the defendant didn't want to plead guilty, the defense would have taken the case to trial, and we would have followed along. But it was at a certain point in time, it was the defendant's decision to say, I'm pleading guilty.
Was it all out of the blue? I guess that's what I'm trying to get at.
No. Well, I mean, if you look at, I always talk about this, Mary, and we've talked about this, right? And I like to kid you, right, when you say, well, we're talking about a case in this jurisdiction, and you ask me, and I'll say, what does the bail letter say? And you say, well, your jurisdiction is the only jurisdiction that does bail letters, right? So we've provided a tremendous amount of evidence, and the evidence in this case is primarily almost, the lion's share of the evidence was the phone evidence, the financial records, the information with regard to the witness statement with regard to Amber Costello the night before, the Chevy Avalanche, the DNA. I think I said cellular phone analysis, and and of course the planning document and the mementos that were found. That's the case. I think there's a tremendous interest in this case, but when you get down to it, the actual commission of the crime, there were 2 witnesses to the commission of all of those crimes, and unfortunately, each time the other witness is no longer with us. So they're just certain, we can't answer every single question because there are no eyewitnesses to these cases. I felt great. I mean, and the reason why I felt great was because I knew it would provide closure to the families. This is a tough. This is a tough forum for victims. The protections extend to the defendant, and it's a process that's tough on victims. So to go through an extensive trial would have been difficult for the family. So we're glad that we were able to spare the families of that, and that's what we're most happy with. So again, look at this deal, and you tell me what we offered and what we didn't offer, and I'll let you decide. I know what I think. Again, it very seldom matters what I think. So if we gave him a deal, then we gave him a deal. Well, so when I ran for office, and when I spoke with the victims' families before I took office, I discussed this task force. And I said, if you look at Suffolk County, the history of this case, every time there's a new person on the case, prior to me getting there, you'll see they go out to Gilgo Beach, and all you guys follow, and they're walking along the beach looking for clues, presumably. I don't know what the heck they're doing. But it's a great media event, and it's a great opportunity to talk about all the great work they're doing and how close they are to catching someone. We did the exact opposite. When we came in, we wanted the one person who mattered, the murderer, to think it's business as usual. We didn't say, hey, it's a slow day. Let's toss Gilgo in the media pool, to sort of get some clicks. We purposely wanted everyone, especially the individual who committed these crimes, to go to sleep. Because when we wanted to work our case, develop our case, and when we proved it, right, when we got that grand jury indictment, we wanted to simultaneously arrest him and execute a whole bunch of warrants. And if he was lulled to sleep, we would get additional evidence, and that's precisely what happened. So I am very proud for the work that we and the other members of the task force did, because how we envisioned it happening, that's what happened. Yes?
If you had to pick one precise turning point in the case that actually got to him, would it be the car, or what was it?
I'm sorry, I cut you off. I apologize for that. Yeah, I anticipated your question. There's I don't think there was one. The phone evidence, financial evidence, the mementos, the planning document, and the DNA evidence, right, off of those hairs. All of it is layered, and so when you take it all together, really, really significant. And I think the key for us was, initially we had, the avalanche. Well, that's great. Let's get more. We had mitochondrial DNA. That's great. Let's get more. We had cellular data. Let's get financial records to link that in. So more. You have too much evidence. Too much evidence is not enough evidence. We realized this was a significant case. These families waited years. So we were going to make sure that when we brought this case to court, it was going to be a very strong, powerful case. And I can tell you, due to the work of these great agencies and these great people, to my left primarily, some to my right, we built a great case. And the reason why we built such a great case is because at no time did we ever say, well, that's enough. We're good. Keep on going.
So Ed, I had a part.
Sure, I'm sorry.
So at the end of your opening statement just now, you said this case closes and another one opens, but the task force have asked for help in identifying some other remains found out there, and I think those are still unidentified. So how could this case actually close?
Well, I'm talking about the case against Rex Heuermann and that indictment, right, in which he pled guilty to the murders of every single woman on that indictment, plus an eighth woman. That case closes. But any case involving an unsolved homicide in Suffolk County, those cases remain open.
And he's being looked at for other unsolved cases that...
That's not the way it works. We don't presume that he did or didn't do any more cases. We go to each case like we did with each of these women. We develop the evidence from those cases. We see where it leads us, and that's what we do. But a lot of other people in Suffolk County said, we think it's this person. We don't think anything. We go to the crime scene, we start the crime scene, we develop the evidence, and we see where it leads us. That's it. When I'm ready to charge somebody, I will. But I'm not going to sit here and say, this murder, we think it's one or two of these people, maybe a third. We don't speculate. We work until we get the evidence to speak through an indictment. Sorry, I don't mean to. But I think that that's the way you do cases, and that's the way we do cases. Yeah.
We've been waiting for word on the baby that was found. Obviously, we know the actual guys in charge was Tanya Jackson. But Tanya, the baby in York County, is there any word that this could be connected, looking for that case?
Yeah, so while we were doing this case, right, Nassau was working on the case involving Tanya Jackson, and they've brought an indictment, right, and prior to that, we brought our indictment, and Nassau gave us the space to work. We appreciate that. Now Nassau has brought their indictment. We're going to give them the space to work. So we'll leave it at that. I'm sorry? We had evidence linking him to the commission of this case. Whether we would have indicted it, I'm not sure. Certainly, once he accepted responsibility for it, that concluded our investigation. But so we took the win and went with it. Okay, so I think we got to call this because I think the families have travel plans. But if you'd like, we could, offline, I could continue answering questions. Thank you. Sure.
I just want to thank District Attorney Ray Tierney because we had a question this morning from one of the victims. Since there is no trial, will they be able to ask questions about the evidence? And the District Attorney agreed. So we appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Unbelievable. Gloria Allred, 84 years old, still as tenacious as ever. Not Ray Tierney, but one of the other speakers called Rex Heuermann a sadistic, soulless, murderous monster. And I think that's a pretty good description. And the sister of Maureen Brainerd Barnes got up there and was just very genuine and heartfelt. And talking about how her family is finally feeling a sense of relief. The the press conference went an hour and 29 minutes, almost exactly to a T. But you've got to remember, this goes back, the first murder in this cluster of 8 that we're talking about today is 33 years ago in 1993. David Sarney, your reaction to the press conference. David is rejoining us at 7, along with Mike Alcazar, and also you're going to get criminologist Dr. Casey Jordan, who has interviewed a slew of serial killers, the 3 of them. So we'll explore everything a lot more and just get a few quick thoughts here, and then let everyone get on their way for 7 o'clock. But David, your thoughts on the press conference?
Yeah, it was very long, but there's necessity to it, and I think the way that it ran clarified a lot of things people didn't understand. Again, to realize the amount of work that was put into this case, just this case alone, and 8 murder investigations, separate murders, which then tie into one murderer, is massive. The amount of resources put into this, the amount of detective work put into this, I appreciated it. DA Tierney, by saying all of that, by bringing that to the forefront, and showing that this case wasn't just done by me. Having the victims be able to at least have their attorney speak for them and speak, and that's also important, because you can see that, with Gloria Allred, and she's 84, and I was surprised that she's still kicking, and that's great for her. That she had the people that she represented say they accept the plea, the explanation of the plea, the question answers. I think it went as well as it could, given the amount and the expansiveness of this. Some moments are heartbreaking when you hear from the families. There were moments it's bad. You feel bad for them, and this never goes away. That's one thing, and I appreciate when Tierney said, it's like we speak for them. There's no one else that's going to be there, and whatever the Post does, what the Post does, and all that. But the reality is, the victims' families were there. They were in communication throughout this entire process of the DA's office, which is impressive. And you got the result that needed to be gotten, which was all the evidence got you to a suspect. The suspect, you get that suspect arrested. Now he becomes a defendant. And then you lay all the information to him. You continually lay on all that evidence. And now you have what you have, which is a plea. And you can hear back and forth about it. The reality is, he's pled guilty to the murders of 7 people and allocated to an 8th on that proffer. In other words, he wasn't going to get prosecuted for that, but kind of a queen for a day, where at least they have a name and a person who he killed. And that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, and Ray Tierney made it clear they're not done. They can prosecute further, and he said one book closes or one chapter closes and another opens. So looks like they're already, if they happen to find remains, or there's a CODIS hit, it's not to say that he can't be prosecuted for other cases. But Ray Tierney opened up, almost seeming a little nervous, but he said this defendant walked among us, play acting as a suburban dad. He would lure these women in, then murder them. He thought by killing them he could silence them, but then pointed to the victims' families, many who were in the audience today, and said that the families refused to stay silent. He talked about how Rex Heuermann would leave evidence behind that further told the stories of victims, and then this evidence was put together through a task force. David, just without going into too much detail, I mean, this case has a long history, including some corruption in Suffolk County. Just speak a little bit about how Ray Tierney turned this around with his task force. At one point, this was a total mess and a total political football, right?
Yeah, there were problems in Suffolk County politics between the police commissioner, the district attorney's office. There were a lot of things that were not going well. I'm not going to go into those people's names, because they deserve what they got, and they were punished for it, and let them continue to be punished for it, because they set this investigation back a decade plus with their incompetence and corrupt attitudes toward it. When Tierney did, and who I was very surprised not to see retired, he's commissioner of Suffolk County Police Department, Rodney Harrison, be there also to talk about this, because that's where they developed this task force, where they said, this is our biggest unsolved case. Let's get all the resources available, bring it to bear. What can we do to move this forward? got the investigators. You have the new technology available about DNA analysis. You have what the detectives did prior to when the recovery of the evidence and all of the work that they did. And you got that. And you had to you sometimes look at cases with new set of eyes. And that the car, I think the vehicle, everyone says with the green avalanche, somehow was missed in the process of the investigation. That started that whole let's look at everything plus the evidence that they had, the trace evidence. It's the dedication detectives do is really shows here, and all the people involved, the analysts, the DNA analysis, the telephone records, all those things that were obtained and reviewed. It was amount of work, and to coordinate it as well as you do, it's hard to do. It's a great work by everybody involved.
Yeah, the two things that struck me about this press conference was obviously the length, the size of it, and also the victims' families there. But starting with the first point, I mean, there's so many people there, which just goes to show you how many people are involved in an investigation of this magnitude. And Ray Tierney literally thanked the people doing the digital phone records, analysts, law enforcement, anthropologists, phone carriers. He thanked, Verizon and the other phone carriers. I mean, it is a massive undertaking, and he thanked all of them. And then, of course, you had Gloria Allred there, 84 years young, and she spoke for the victims' families. And you saw one irate family member screaming that the New York Post needs to stop calling them sex workers, because that is not how they should be defined. And one of the questions was something that Michael Brown said, and he basically, Michael Brown in his comments, which we'll show later on, essentially said one of the reasons that Rex Heuermann took this plea deal was so that the victims' families wouldn't have to go through it, which I call absolute BS on, almost a low blow there. And Ray Tierney and Gloria Allred refused to even acknowledge that.
Yeah, it was backslap. It was a backslap comment. It was not necessary. When you're an attorney, said you defend your client to the best of your ability, and sometimes they will vilify or villainize or demonize the victims, and that's kind of like an offhanded comment by him. But at this point, the words don't matter. What you have are the results, and the results matter. It's not what you think, it's what you can prove. I love what Ray Tierney says, is I go back to that all the time. Now we think it's what we can prove. And they never believed they had enough. And that was important, because you never know when you have enough until you don't. Any crime scene that you go to, you never know. I walk away, the same thing. Did I get everything? Did I make sure? Did I do everything I needed to do? And they never did. And, I know about Dr. Adams, Bradley Adams, the anthropologist from the OCME's office. Great guy. And he also pushed it further to go. And that's where, listening to all of the participants and all the coordination that's involved, listening to people's expertise, because we don't know everything. So we have to but we know something. So we bring the people that know other things that we don't know. And that's why you got what you have here. And like I said, none of this happens without the work of the investigators 30 plus years ago, 20 plus years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, and today.
Yeah, really well said. Ray Tierney said if it wasn't for the hard work that they put in and the evidence, that this monster would still be walking amongst us. And he said that the story is about the victims and not about Rex Heuermann. He said for the first time after a decades-long scar that stood out on Long Island in New York, that for the first time he could turn to all the victims' families, and he said their names. And we will end our show by saying their names today: Melissa Barthelemy, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Megan Waterman, Amberlynn Costello, Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, Sandra Castilla, and Karen Vergata is who he admitted to but did not plead to. And then let's also remember Shannon Gilbert, who was running away from him and is the reason that this entire investigation was triggered. We'll talk a little bit more about her tonight. But huge thanks to David Sarney. Tim Jansen had to run to a meeting. He is a working criminal defense attorney. Huge thanks to STS Nation for being here each and every day. This was like we always say, there's no closure, but some justice was delivered today, and now sentencing will be on June 17th. Got to thank Space Coast on the West Coast, really holding everything down for us today. He's the one that's bringing us all these press conferences and sound bites. It doesn't happen out of thin blue air. Space Coast is doing his magic behind the scenes. COE, who's hanging with the kids because they are off of school for spring break. And Steve Cohen continues to mourn the loss of his father. So a rough couple of days here at STS, but got you as a family. We'll get through it. We'll be back at 7 o'clock. David is coming back. Mike Alcazar from the NYPD and Dr. Casey Jordan, who's interviewed a slew of serial killers. We will see you at 7 o'clock. Thank you, David. Love you, America. Justice for the victims of that monster who is now a convicted killer, admitting to 8 murders.